All right, what is going on, everyone? Thought I would do a live stream tonight. Hadn't done one in a little bit, and just had a few things I thought would be fun to talk about. Plus, we've got the Heritage Weekly comic auction that is going on. I always like to try to do these during those auctions because then you potentially see some cool books come up for sale. We see how they do, see how the whole market's going, all that kind of stuff. There's actually a couple really big books coming up in just a couple minutes, and so we'll probably won't get to see those go live, but we can talk about those. But before we get into this, I always like to kind of like show a few books that I picked up recently, or in this case, if you haven't watched the video that I put out yesterday, it was the first part of a CGC submission that I got back. And so I've got a couple books, just kind of like some teaser books. You haven't checked that one out yet. So first one here, this is just one of my favorite Batman covers. I think this cover is incredible. I highly recommend it to anybody that's looking to pick up Batman covers. There's not really anything that's key about it. It's just a cool Neil Adams and Bernie Wrightson cover, and that's this one right here, Batman number 241. I had two copies. One of them came back as a 9.0, and these ones I had picked up on because people ask, like, where do you find books, all that kind of stuff. These ones actually picked up on Instagram during a live sale that was being hosted by Rage Theo and One True Nerd King. They were selling books for the Fantast collection, and they had a couple copies of this, and I ended up picking up both of those. This one came back a 9.0. I didn't send in all the books that I picked up from that, the Fantast sale, but there were a number of them that turned out that they were pretty nice condition. I decided it was worthwhile to get them graded. So there are a good amount of them that are in this submission that are coming back. And yeah, thanks for everybody for joining the chat already. We've got Collecto 6, Half a K-Man. I think we've got 12-cent comics and cards. Do I need to pull up my account to start bidding now? Oh, well, I mean, one of the books that's selling right now is this Human Torch number 12, and I'll definitely talk about that one a little bit. It just sold for 5,520. Let's see, what did I have that one going for? Real quick here. Human Torch. I don't know. Oh man. I gotta find this book here. So Human Torch number 20 or number 12. I thought would go for 5,500. And it went for, what did I say, 5,520? Yeah, so almost exactly what I thought that one would go for. So right on point. But that one is kind of a famous book because it's one of the most violent covers that Alex Schomburg ever did. It really has a lot more direct violence on the cover than implied violence, which is what you often see. But then we've got 96 Ref here. We've got NC Slapjacks and Treasury Edition. Thanks everybody for joining the chat. So I was showing just a couple books that I had picked up recently, or that I'd gotten back in that submission. Now, two of them that I wanted to show was because in general, this submission, I haven't checked 4 of the books yet. So there's still 4 that I'm waiting for another set of books to come back to talk about. But all the other ones, because you'll get a preview of one of the books I haven't shown in a video yet. But I had a couple issues with the cases, not really the cases, but the holograms themselves. And there was actually a comment I got from someone that they had something similar happen, or they knew someone that had something similar happen. And so I'm going to have to send these ones back to have them recased because I feel like it detracts from the book. And I don't know why this happened, but this is one of them. This is one that's not in the video I've shown yet. It's in the next video I filmed, but let's see if you can see it. So you see up here, like it's like a third of the hologram is just completely missing. I don't know what happened there, but there's kind of like a scuff down below it too. So I don't know if some scrape happened, but it almost looks like, the holograms are on some like sheet of stickers and these ones weren't cut right. And so like it cut into it. And there was one that had a little bit of it, and I think it's fine, and I'm just going to leave it. It's not enough. This one was like a third of it's missing, so I'm going to send that one back in. And then the other one, the one that was really bad, was in the video that I showed already. It's actually a really cool book. It's this Comedy Comics number 8, which came back a 6.5, which is the top of census for this book. I mean, this is one of these late 40s, 1949 timely books, these kind of like good girl romance type books. And so they're pretty scarce in general. And then, having top of census, but like, look at that label or that hologram. I mean, it's missing a big chunk and it got like scraped out. And so I don't know what was going on there. It's the type of thing that it definitely didn't happen in shipping. So this is the type of thing that this should be caught in quality control. Like my opinion, this type of stuff should be real easy quality control. It's not even like a small crack on the edge or something that somebody missed. I mean, it's like right in your face that there's this huge chunk missing out of the hologram. And now, I mean, yeah, I know they'll cover it. That's not the issue, but it's that now I've got to, do another submission for correcting for a mechanical. I've got to get a label and then I'll mail it out. I got to go to FedEx. Usually that's how you have to ship it for this. Got to go into FedEx, got to ship it out. And it's going to be like 6+ weeks until I get the book back. And it's just it's just an annoyance that shouldn't be there. And so that's something. But now the other book I just wanted to show because it's one that I'm really proud of. So this was the big book that I showed in that video. And this was Phantom Lady number 17. This is the, like one of the Matt Baker books. I know there is some slight controversy around, like some people think it's Kamen, but I don't care. I think it looks like Baker. But this is the most expensive non-superhero book currently that has ever sold. Because there was the 9/6 Promise Collection book that sold for $456,000. This is a 2.5, much lower grade than the Promise Collection book, but still a very, very expensive book. There's some pen and all this on the cover, but and the kids that own this thing, they wrote all over the back of it, but I don't care. Like, I have tried to get a copy of this book for multiple years, ever since I saw it. And it's just like, it kept getting more and more and more expensive. And I finally pulled the trigger on a raw copy on an Instagram claim sale and came back a 2.5. And I had it as a 2 to a 2.5. So I'm very happy with getting the 2.5 on that. It had a big spine roll, got that fixed. So it looks real nice, great colors and all of that. All right. This one, Pinky Panther. No, they will not charge me. I can guarantee you they won't charge me. So the only time you'll, like, as long as you do it within the first like 2 weeks, like, you have to basically, it used to be that you could almost send them back almost any time if you were the original submitter of the books. Then they changed something maybe around 5 or 6 months ago. It might even not have been that long ago, where they put a time restriction on it. So it's like, once you've received the books, if you have a problem with a mechanical, whether that's a crack in the case, scratches on the case, scuffs, like my other ones, I had some scuffs and scratches, and I sent some back. If they're small, I don't mind, but if they're larger, and they deter from the book, then I want to get it handled. And that's similar. That's something that I can guarantee you is going to be covered under this, and we'll get reslabbed without any cost. And they cover the shipping, like they give you the label. It takes like 6 weeks. All right. Okay, yeah, they updated the policy in May. 14 days is too short. I mean, that's why I open them right away now. It used to be that, like, sometimes I would wait, and especially if I was planning on doing some type of unboxing video or something. But now I film those videos right away. Whether I release them right away or not, it's a big part of that is so that I can check those books and make sure that there's not a problem. Because, yeah, I saw that in Dave with Comic Book Investments. He was talking about that on his channel, that he didn't realize that had happened. And he opened some boxes and had a bunch of crack cases or a few crack cases or something, and he couldn't do the resubmission. He had to pay for it. And so that's when I saw that, that's when I realized they had changed that rule. And so that's why I now make sure I open them, right away. The question, are you about ready to part with your Cat 46? No, I am not ready to part with my Cat 46 yet. So that one is still firmly in the on the keeper list, along with that Phantom Lady 17. All right. So first thing I thought I'd talk about on here is one of the things, like, if you saw the thumbnail, I had the comment about $1.9 million in sales. So I'm going to share my screen here. And what I was talking about was the big signature heritage auction that happened, what going on maybe a week and a half ago now, 2 weeks ago now. Some actually it might have just been, yeah, like a week and a half. So I actually bought a few books from that one. And the last signature auction, it took like a month to get my book shipped out. This one, it took 3 days. They had those books shipped out like 3 days after that auction ended. It was crazy. I've already received them. That was a really, really fast turnaround time. Okay, and sorry, there's a question here. So TK Junction, if they mess up the label, does that count the same? One of my SS doesn't list the signed on date. The labels are different. I don't know the exact cutoff date or even if there is one, but they specifically say on their page, they have some guidance on it. And it's if it's a mechanical, like a cracked case, scratches, that kind of thing, that's the 2 weeks. For label errors, you have more time. So that I don't know exactly what the time is for the label errors, but you do have more time for those label errors. But so one of the things I thought I would talk about here was kind of like how those big books did in this sale. So I believe there were 16 books that sold in that big signature heritage comic auction, and their total sales numbers were $1,924,000. Well, let's see. Let's start this over again. Their total sales number was $1,924,800. And my estimates for those 16 books totaled $1,987,000. So really, like for books of this caliber, books that don't sell this often, books that are this expensive, that turned out to be pretty close. I'm pretty happy with how my estimates ended up being. I was a little bit high, but just a little over 3% high. And so for all of that, I'd say that was pretty close on what I thought these were going to do. But there were definitely some books that really overperformed and some books that underperformed. There were definitely, even in those big first 16 books, some books that I felt went for some pretty good deals. And so I'll just kind of start from the top here. So the first one was this Action Comics #1. And this is a 0.5. I've talked about this book before. A number of people have talked about this book. And you can see it's missing the back cover. So there's no back cover. That is why it's a 0.5. I mean, it's also just a low grade book. Even if the back cover was there, this might get a 1, but would probably have a decent, it would be somewhere between a 0.5 and a 1, regardless, whether it had that back cover or not. Now, I had this book estimated at $325,000. So the way I went through my estimates, I went back and I watched that video that I went through and did all the estimates for them. And if I gave a range, I picked the number in the middle. And there were a couple books I didn't talk about, so I took care of those after the fact. But I think I had said this one I thought would go for 300 to 350, ended up going for 408,000. So I said that my estimate was 325,000. So it went for 26% over my estimate. I mean, this was a strong sale, but to me, this wasn't a surprising sale because, I mean, it's Action Comics #1. I mean, there's going to be a lot of interest at this level because this is just basically what it costs to get into this book now. We now know like the bare minimum. If you want a copy of this book that at least has the front cover, you're going to pay almost $500,000. I mean, $408,000 for this book. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money, but when you've got just a little bit higher grades, you know, like a 3.0 going for multiple millions of dollars, it's not a surprise. It's very similar to what you see with like Amazing Fantasy 15, where to get into a 0.5, it's a really high barrier of entry. And so it might cost you 12, 13,000, something like that to get a 0.5, but then you could get a 2.0 for maybe 20,000 or 19,000. And so you have that really high barrier just to get the copy. And then you tend to have a kind of a dip in the price per point. And then you have it climb up again as the books get higher and higher in grade. But then let's take a look at the next book. So the next book, this one I actually didn't price in the live stream, but I priced it afterwards. This is Action Comics #4. And so this, I believe, it's probably just the 4th appearance. Yeah, so 4th appearance of Superman. And so this one I had going for 25,000, went for 24,000. So really within, you know, any type of range that you could expect, like that went for right around what I thought it would go for. So no big surprises there. Now, there were some questions about some of these early Action Comics in one of the other streams that I did. And yeah, it's just when they don't have Superman on the cover, they just don't get the attention. I mean, if this has Superman on the cover, probably goes for $300,000, something like that, 400,000. But without Superman on the cover, just on the interior, $24,000. Because the question was about the first appearance of Jimmy Olsen and why that one goes for so little, and it's because it doesn't have Superman on that cover. But yeah, so this one went right around where I thought it would. All right, everybody see me? Just my Instagram just said that, or my not Instagram, my internet just said that crashed. So I'm gonna re-add my screen here and get back into this. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Never had that happen before, but I'm back. All right. So let me know in the chat if you can still hear me, still see everything, that kind of thing. And then I just want to make sure before I start talking too much. But in the meantime, I will. All right. In the meantime, we've got. So what I can do is I can talk about this Human Torch. Let's see this one here. This was this Human Torch number 12 sale, and I had this one going for 5,500, went for 5,520, and thanks Lee for confirming in the chat. And so you can see here, like this one is very violent. I mean, it's Human Torch punching this guy's arm off. So it is one of the more violent covers that's out there. And yeah, I mean, I think so 5,500 or 5,520 really right around what I thought it would go for. But I was surprised to see this one pop up in the sale. I mean, this is a big book, a pretty rare book, not one you see very often. And so it was a little surprising seeing it show up in a weekly. But all right, we'll get back to talking about these big sales for this big signature auction. So this one was All Winners number 21, and you'll see a couple things about this one. It has this feed store collection stamp on it, and so that's really kind of, I call them like, I don't know, it's kind of like call it like a made up pedigree or just something like that. It's a collection from somebody who had these books, and they are selling them all through Heritage, and Heritage will put these kind of like little stickers on them. And this one they called the Feed Store Collection. I don't know the history behind it, but I do think I remember seeing somebody posting about it on the comic book collecting subreddit, like as they were finding these books and asking how they should handle them. I think that's where the first time I think I heard about these books. But there are a lot of books in this auction from this Feed Store collection. And this is a very high grade book, All Winners, number 21 and a 9.4. I had this one going for 27,500, went for 26,400. I mean, within 4%, right in range there for this book. So it was definitely kind of like right in line for what I was expecting with it. I mean, it's a cool book. It's a really high grade for, the 1940s, 1947. But for me, like, it's not a Schomburg cover, which is one thing that a lot of people are looking for. It's post World War II, which is kind of something that takes away from a little bit. And so it's not a book that I personally would be chasing after, but still, like, anytime you get something that's near mint in this type of era, it's pretty impressive. Now, one other thing you'll notice, because it's something that I think a lot of people really get hung up on, is that this has a dust shadow on it. It's a 9.4 with a dust shadow. Because I will have people constantly, they'll ask me about my thoughts on the Promise collection. And it's because a lot of the Promise collection books had dust shadows. And if you're not familiar with the Golden Age, you can have dust shadows on very high grade books. And like, there are even mile high books that are 9/8 that have dust shadows on them. And so, yeah, there are some where you might say, like, it feels like maybe it should have been a 9.4 instead of a 9.6, or 9.4 instead of a 9.8 or something like that. But in general, because I've had people ask me, like I said, I've had people ask me about this, so I want to touch on it. I am completely fine with those Promise collection books. There are always going to be outliers. There's going to be books where people disagree and have, differences of opinion on grading. But I mean, I've had not quite a few, but I probably had maybe five or six Promise collection books, and they've just been stunning, just incredible looking books. So I don't know. That's my take on it. I mean, Golden Age grading, like, it is a little different than the other eras. Like, some people think that Golden Age grading is exactly the same as silver and bronze and modern, and it is not. Things are graded a little bit differently there. There was actually also something that came up on Instagram related to that, where there was somebody that was commenting about there was a note on a blue label that said very small amount of color touch, and they're like, "Oh, that should have been a purple label. CGC made a mistake," and that's not correct. There is a small enough threshold in the Golden Age where you can have color touch on the cover, and I don't know what that threshold is. It is very small though, where you can have color touch on the cover and still get a blue label. Same thing with glue. You can have glue on the cover and you can still get a blue label. Now, typically the rule is for the glue is that it has to be non-functional. So if it's reattaching a cover, you're going to get a purple label. But if it's just there on the spine and the cover has fallen back off again, you can still get a blue label. Now, yeah, I see some questions about or comments on the feed store stickers. Yeah, I agree. I don't personally really like the stickers on there. I think it detracts a little bit, but they are just stickers. You can take them off if you want to. I don't think it would be too difficult to have those removed. All right, let's go to the next one here. So the next one, this was a big book. So this Amazing Fantasy 15 went for $75,000, and I had estimated it at $75,000. So the 6.0 went for exactly what I thought it would. It had a high sale of, I believe, 96,000, but there were some other grades that sold much higher than that, kind of around it. So this was a really nice looking copy. I wouldn't have been surprised if it had gone for a little bit more, but I mean, it went for what I thought. So, I mean, I talked about this a little bit in a prior video. I mean, it has a little bit of what you call pre-Marvel chipping. It's like Marvel tears, I think they call it now. But it has very little Marvel chipping. And this book is known for Marvel chipping. It's just one of those books that just tends to have it quite a bit on this right edge. And there's just very little, just a couple little tears on it. And so this was a really beautiful copy. I mean, this is a stunning copy of Amazing Fantasy 15. All right, let's go to the next one here. So this was one of the books that I felt like went for a deal. This one seemed cheap to me. So this is obviously Avengers #4, first Silver Age appearance of Captain America, a 9.8, $132,000. Now, I thought that this book was going to go for $200,000. I mean, the prior high was quite a bit lower. Prior record was $143,400. But I mean, when you looked at the prices of this book versus other grades, when that book had sold for 143,000 or whatever versus what it was selling for now, I mean, this book's just staying flat. I mean, it was a surprise. I was not expecting this. I think whoever picked this one up got it for a good deal. I mean, it's a good looking book. It's a white page, 9.8. I don't know what else you can want from this copy, but yeah, I just think that one went low in my opinion. I think that if I was the seller of that book, I would have been disappointed in this sale. This is one of the 2 sales that were in this opening 16 books that if I was a seller of that book, I would have been disappointed. And I mean, you'd have to think that, like, if you go back, I mean, let's take a look at GPA. So Avengers #4. So if you're not familiar, this is GPA. It's one of the tools that I often use for pricing comics right now. And so with Avengers #4, we go to a 9.8, and one hadn't sold since 2017. And in that 2017 sale, it sold for 143,000. A lot has happened in the comic market since 2017. I mean, for that book to sell for less, and I think Mickey might have talked about this book on his channel. I don't even think this was white pages. Yeah. So I always kind of joke because, like, I'm not a person that really cares about page quality at all. And so I always think it's kind of funny when you see stuff like this, because you have some people that will just like push like page quality and think that it's like the most important thing out there. And then you see this and you go, okay, 6 years ago, a 9.8 off white to white sold for more than the current 9.8 white page copy that sold. So the record is for an off white to white page copy. But yeah, I mean, that's just like when you look at, like, let's look at this, like 2017, let's go to a 9.2. I mean, you go back to 2017, a 9.2 was a $7,000 book. Even like corrected prices, it's a $10,000 book. It's 50% more. That's how I kind of got to my number. That's how I approached that number of 200,000. I looked at multiple grades, and in that time period, multiple books were up around 50%. And so I was like, okay, I expected something similar for the 9.8, and we just didn't see it. And so I personally think that was a good deal on that book. Right. Let's move on to the next one. So next book here, this was one that I felt like was a pretty good deal. This wasn't one of those top tier deals like the minus 30% or 30% below, but I still felt like this was a pretty good deal for this book. This is, Batman #1, first appearance of the Joker, first appearance of Catwoman. I mean, two of the biggest characters in comics, their first appearances here. And 3.5 for $228,000. I had this going for $265,000. So this is 14% below what I thought it would go for. And I know Mickey has talked about this as well on his channel. It feels like there's maybe a little bit of fatigue for Batman #1. We have seen so many copies of Batman #1 come up for sale in the last year or so. I mean, so let's take a look at this. And this is Go Collect. This is one of the other tools that I like to use for this, for pricing. And one of the nice things just with Go Collect is I can just see all the sales back to back real easily. And just look at this. Just in 2023, it goes off the first page. All of these, 2023 for Batman #1. I mean, this is a golden age book. This is an early golden age book. I mean, let's see how many pages we have to go. Okay, so I think there's 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So just public sales. There have been 13 sales of Batman #1 just this year, and it's September. I mean, that to me is just crazy. And then let's go to 2022. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 sales in 2022. That is 28 sales in the last year and 9 months. That, I don't know, like that is a ton of books for something that has a total number of copies out there of 302 on census. And so it's given this feeling like to me, it's just, there's too many of them coming out. And I do think that will probably slow down after a little bit. I know Mickey he's been saying that he thinks maybe a lot of dealers had picked them up. And so that's why we're getting those coming up for sale now. But yeah, I mean, it's such a cool book. It is a great cover, 2 incredible first appearances, and a #1 from 1940 for a character that is still extremely relevant today. And we've just been seeing so many copies changing hands that, I mean, if I was selling one, I'd probably hold on to it for a little bit right now. Let things calm down some with the Batman #1s, because it just seems like every major auction that I watch, whether that's Comic Link, Comic Connect, or Heritage, they're big ones, like they're signature type auctions. I see Batman #1, come up for sale. This auction had 3 of them. I mean, there were 3, and so I'm guessing they should all be here. So let's take a look at that. Because yeah, we had the 3.5, we had a 1.8, and we had one that was missing the front cover as a 0.5. I mean, just this one auction, we had 3 copies come up for sale. And so that type of thing, just, I don't know, it has made me less interested in the book. It's weird, but like just seeing it sell so much, it just gives this feeling like nobody wants it. So like people just keep trying to flip it or something like that. So if I was selling it, I'd be holding on for a little while right now, just to hopefully let things calm down in that market a little bit. But all right, so on to the next one. All right, this is a great book. This one sold for just about exactly what I thought it would. It was actually a prior record for a 2.0 for Captain America Comics #1 was $90,000. So $114,000 is a new record. I had it going for $115,000. So it went for, $1,000 under my estimate. So basically right on with that estimate. I mean, this would be a cool book to own. I mean, it does feel like this one is not quite the tier of, you know, like Action 1 or Tech 27. I mean, it's first appearance of Captain America. He's on the cover. He's punching Hitler in the face. I mean, it has pretty much everything you would want for it. It is a little bit later than those other ones, though. That could be the thing that is a little bit of what drops it slightly, is that it's 1941, you know, versus the 30s for Tech 27 and Action Comics #1. But I mean, maybe it's not quite at that tier, but it is about as close as you can get. And so, I mean, you're talking $50,000 to $60,000 per point down at this type of grade. So, I mean, yeah, cool book. Went for almost exactly what I thought it would. I always like seeing these ones come up for sale because it would be cool to own. It would definitely be a cool book to own. I've talked about it before. I would probably more be targeting something like Captain America 3. I think that one is something that could eventually be a book that I could get in my budget. This book is outside of that any known budget that I have right now. So it's just a cool book to see come up for sale, and one that I, you know, and this one looks nice. I mean, this is a really, really nice looking 2.0. Yeah, Crazy for Comics says Captain America doesn't have as much demand outside of the States. Yeah, I believe that. You know, I totally believe that characters like Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, maybe a little more universal than Captain America. All right. Next one. This was the other book that I felt went for a big steal. This one, now, one of the things that probably did hurt it some, I know some people said maybe the stamps, but I mean, with Action Comics 1, you know, you've got the Rocket copy. Like that is that Rocket stamp on there. People love that stamp on this. I think these are pretty cool stamps. I don't have any problem with these like anchor stamps on there. I think they're cool. They don't really deter the, you know, and take anything away from the book for me. But the thing that probably really hurt this book was the page quality in this case. And I know I was talking about page quality before, but when you're selling a book, especially on Heritage, I've noticed page quality can kill a book on Heritage. Other places, page quality doesn't seem to matter nearly as much, but on Heritage, it seems there just seems to be a little more pickiness about that page quality. And so that, I think, definitely played a role in what this one ended up selling for, because I had this book estimated at $125,000 and it went for $81,000. This actually went for below the prior record, the prior high sale, which was $102,000. I mean, this went $21,000 below that. And so this was, to me, I felt like this was like a 35% discount for this book. I mean, this is the third appearance of Batman. This is the second cover appearance. And I know a lot of people like this cover appearance a lot more than the Tech 27 cover appearance. And I would agree. I think this version of Batman, the way he's drawn here, he just looks more menacing than in Tech 27. Tech 27 just still feels, you know, I mean, it's the first time you see him, right? So it still feels unpolished. This feels a little bit more polished. They've had a little more time drawing the character and the interiors as well. And so you get, you know, just I feel like a better looking version of Batman on this cover. And it's a cool action cover, you know, coming through the window. And yeah, so I think whoever bought this one got it for a great price. I mean, I think that this one just went way lower than what I would have thought it should have gone for third appearance of Batman, especially since like Tech 27 and Action 1, those books are still going through the roof. And so, and a lot of the other tech books, like a lot of other early tech books are just hitting record after record after record. And so to me, this was a big surprise to see this one going for the price that it did. All right. Next one here. So now we have, I think, no, this is the second Silver Age book. So we had the, third, because we had the Amazing Fantasy 15, we have Avengers #4, and now we have Incredible Hulk #1 and a 7.5 going for $84,000. I had this one going for 80. So just around what I had it going for. Its record was $108,100. So not quite its record, but it's not a surprise to me. I mean, a lot of these books hit their records in the, you know, in the comic boom period, 2021, 2022. And so, you know, this is a strong sale for this book. This is another one that very often has that Marvel chipping over here. And this is an incredible looking copy. I mean, there's a crease up here that seems like and some creases on the top, and then a little bit of spine wear. I mean, otherwise, just, yeah, I mean, amazing looking copy of this book. Really, really impressive book, and a solid sale. Because I had it going for 80, one for 84,000. And we've got a comment here. Captain 46 is your favorite. Yeah, that is one of my favorites as well. That is why my copy is currently on my keeper list. It was one of those books I didn't think I was going to get an opportunity to ever own. And so I was very happy when that chance finally came up. And because it's one of those things that's like, yeah, maybe a few copies sell per year, but if one of those copies is a mid-grade or a high-grade copy, I mean, it's going to be 40, 50, 60, $80,000. And it's like, oh, I'm not buying that. So it's like, it's got to be a copy that comes up for sale and is a lower grade, and hopefully one that presents relatively well for that lower grade. So that just, worked out well for me on that one. All right. Next one here. This is one that I didn't even talk about this book in my live stream. I didn't understand why this book was in this opening set of 16 books. There were so many other just massive books that came up in the later part of the auction. I mean, yeah, I get it. It's a 9.6 from 1942. It's a Mile High pedigree, but I mean, it's Joker Comics #1. Like I think it's the first appearance of Powerhouse Pepper, I think. Is that what it is? Yeah, first appearance of Power. Like, I mean, this guy down here, like a character that nobody cares about anymore. I mean, maybe there's like 10 people on the planet that care about Powerhouse Pepper. And so like to see this one in that opening set of 16 was just a surprise to me. And this sale was an even bigger surprise. I mean, $19,200 for this book. Like I had this one, I had this one going for $12,000. And even that, I was like, man, is it really going to go for 12,000? I was like, maybe I'm even putting like too much into this book. And because I mean, let's take a look at this one. Joker Comics #1. So 1942. And so, I mean, yeah, you've got like a 6.5 going for 1,800, 3.0 going for $420, then nothing really selling in these like kind of like upper grades here. And then 9.6, $19,000. I don't get it. Like I'm sure someone is happy with it, but I mean, yeah, colors are great and everything, but it's like, I mean, it's a dead character, and it's just not something that if I was spending 20 grand, I mean, maybe that's the thing. Like, maybe this person has $1 billion or $100 million, and so it doesn't matter to them. But yeah, if I was spending 20 grand, I would be targeting something else. But yeah, that one was the biggest surprise to me. It went 60% over what I thought it was. Now, granted, that was a guess. I mean, you saw the sales there. It's not like this is an easy book to guess what this is going to sell for, but I wasn't expecting that. All right, this one here, this was a pretty solid sale. So this is More Fun #73. This is a big DC key. If you're not... It's funny. Rodney Jones says Powerhouse Pepper, she's the best. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the joke there is that it is a male character. But yeah. So More Fun Comics #73. This is the first appearance of Aquaman, first appearance of Green Arrow, and the first appearance of Speedy. So triple first appearance in the Golden Age, old Golden Age. I mean, 1941. Unfortunately, none of them are on the cover. None of them are on the cover of their second appearance either. That hurts things a little bit, but it's still a pretty cool cover. So you at least have that going for it. Now, I had this one going for $117,500. So it went a little bit below what I thought it would. I think that means I probably had it from 115 to 120 is probably what I said in that prior video. So it had 117,500. I mean, within 3%. But its prior record was 72,000. So, I mean, hitting a new record, and just a rare book. I mean, like, how many are on census for this thing? Let's see. Only 38 universal copies. Like, these More Fun books are extremely difficult. I mean, these books, this run itself, you just don't come across them very often. And, it's a cool book. I mean, it is one of those things where not having them on the cover definitely is a negative, but I mean, I had let's see. I think someone sent me a picture of an interior, and like Aquaman looks pretty cool on the interior of these. Like it feels like a pretty well flushed out character already, almost at that point, which is always impressive when you have them, just showing up here. I talked about that with Pep Comics number 23, second appearance of Archie. Like the story in there with Archie is already really well done, and that's only his second appearance. So pretty impressive how they came up and thought out these characters, as quickly as they did, and put together some really solid stories for them. All right. Yeah. Huge book, triple threat. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, not only that, it's a 7.0 white page copy from 1941. And so that's also something where I've had some questions that people have asked about, can books really stay, in this type of good condition for long periods of time? And yeah, I mean, there are plenty of examples of golden age white page books, which means that if you are storing them properly in a temperature controlled area, have a dehumidifier or whatever whatever you have in there, have, whether it's in a Mylar or, with a full back or with those plastic backing boards, all that kind of stuff. I mean, they will stay in the same condition for a very long period of time. And seeing these books that are 82 years old still having white pages is what can really, shows you that. Yeah, it's a crime that Aquaman was never on a GA cover. Yeah, I know, it's crazy that he wasn't, that he never made an appearance on a Golden Age cover. It wasn't until was that Showcase, and I'm not going to remember the issue number, like 30 or 34 or something like that, that you have that first cover appearance of Aquaman. Let's see which one it is. That's Adam. So Showcase. Somebody will probably get it in the chat for me before I even. Or did this one beat Brave and the Bold? I don't know. I'd have to check. So yeah, here's Showcase 30, but was Brave and the Bold 28? That might have been before that then. I don't know. So Brave and the Bold 28. So we had Showcase 30 is 1961. Brave and Bold 28. 1960. So okay, so 1960 would have been the first time. So it's probably Justice or Brave and Bold 28 was the first time he was on the cover. Yeah. I mean, many years after 20 years after his first appearance. Let's see. I got a question. What do you think of Criminals on the Run, Volume 4, Issue 7, classic LB Cole? Fish in the face cover, only 69 census, but seems like its last sale was low. I mean, I am not familiar with that book. We can take a look at it. I guess let's show people what it looks like, because I don't know what that book is. Criminals on the Run, number 7. The volume ones are always really tough in. Let's see, volume. That is a hilarious cover. Oh my god. I mean, that's a really funny cover, right? Like this guy like chucking a fish at this guy who's going to shoot his face. I mean, that is pretty great. I was not familiar with that cover. That's pretty good. But yeah, let's look that one up. I've never seen that one before. It's always fun when there's like a cover I haven't seen, because I've seen a lot of covers, and that one I don't remember ever seeing that one. So you said there was a 4.0 for 1,200. So it looks like there's a 4.5. Maybe that's what you're referring to, or it might have been on some site that didn't get pulled into here for 1,200. I mean, I don't know if it's low or not. Like, I mean, it's a cover of a guy getting hit in the face with a fish. Like I don't know what the demand is for it. I mean, these numbers seem pretty strong for a guy getting hit in the face with a fish. I mean, my opinion. Like, I mean, an 8.0 going for 4,500, 6.5, 5,200, 5.5, 2,000. I mean, I don't know. Like, fish in the face going for about 300 to 400 a point here, going for around 500 a point up here. I feel like that seems reasonable. Those seem like reasonable numbers for that cover. If anybody wants to see that one again, here's this guy getting hit in the face with a fish. That's pretty great. I like that. All right, let's check out the next one here. Okay, so this was one of the marquee books for this sale. All right, So this is one of the marquee books for the sale. This is Punch Comics number 12. An 8.0. I talked about this one in one of my prior videos, in that I wasn't sure exactly if there are some things that might hurt it, because it is the top of census. An 8.0 is the best known copy out there. There's also the Crowley copy pedigree. So it's a pedigree, it's highest copy on census, single highest copy on census. And I mean, it's a really nice looking book. The only real negative, or like that you could even really give to it, is that the skull on this one is kind of yellowed. It's not as white as what you see with a lot of the other copies that I've seen of Punch Comics number 12. And I'll say this, like, even my copy of Punch Comics number 12, which is in this box right here, which I thought I might open tonight. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But yeah, mine finally came in. But even mine has and it's a low grade, has a whiter skull than that one. So I thought that might hurt a little bit, but it went for almost exactly what I thought. I had it going for 200,000, went for 204,000. Now I will say, it seemed like I talked to some people, and it seemed like this one maybe had gotten stuck at some lower numbers, and they, the auctioneer like kept working on it, kept working it, and those bids started coming back in, and it started catching some more bids. So there are some of these books, it seems, like even with big books like this, like sometimes you got to work the crowd a little bit to get those numbers. And but yeah, sold for right around what I thought it would, 204,000. And there were some comments on Instagram that I thought were interesting about this book, and the question was, did this go low? And so, like I said, I thought 200,000 seemed reasonable, so I didn't think it went low. But it was, there were comparisons to things like Amazing Fantasy 15, and like what would it be, like a 7.5 around that or something, or comparisons to that Action 1 and a 0.5 going for double this. And my personal takeaway, my thought on this is that those characters, Spider-Man, Superman, and you're talking about Tech 27, Batman, they are much more well-known characters. Like if you went to almost any part of we'll say the industrialized world, like people that have access to social media, have access to, movies and that type of content, they're going to know who Superman is, who Batman is, who Spider-Man is. The only people that really know what this cover is comic collectors. And it's not just comic collectors. It is a subset of comic collectors. It is largely Golden Age collectors. Like for me, before I got into Golden Age comics, around 3.5 years ago or so, I didn't even know what this cover was. I was not familiar with it. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, that is an awesome comic. I would like to own one of those, but I wasn't familiar with it. And, I'm someone that I've seen all the, Marvel movies. I watch all the content. I do, I collected comics as a younger kid, and I had no idea what this was. And so to me, that's one of those things that really is one of the, what I think holds back certain books like this, is that they are for a smaller subset of collectors. They just don't have that big collector base that are going to drive the value for it. That's my take on it. We've got there's a comment. I saw the Batman 16 CGC 60 white pages sold on Heritage earlier tonight. Great Batman key and page quality. I wonder who bought that book. I don't know. Like that may have been me. So yeah. Let's see here. Here's Punch Comics number 10. Let me see. Where's that? Because it would have been one of the more expensive books. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that was me. so yes, yeah. Batman 16 60 white pages. I felt like that was a great price for that book, and so I did buy that book. So yeah, I agree. I think that is a great Batman key, and I felt like it went for a great price. Are we going to see a new slab on your bookshelf behind you? Fish in the face. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm gonna have to put that one's on my watch list now. Like that, I think that is a great cover. It's definitely one that I will be keeping a lookout for. It's not one that I would have expected to be that expensive, though. I mean, like multiple thousands of dollars for a mid-grade copy of a dude getting hit in the face with a fish is definitely a surprise to me. Fish Face would not be on my LB Cole want list. I don't know, like it's on mine now. It's one that I'm definitely like. There are certain books. I don't know. It's an expensive book for kind of like a what's just kind of like a funny cover. Like so, I don't know. I'm interested in that one now. Then comment from Crazy for Comics that he likes Witchcraft 2 better than Punch 12. I mean, me personally, I like Punch 12 more, but if people aren't familiar with Witchcraft, I like Witchcraft 2 is a great cover. I mean, I would almost put it at like, for skull covers, I'd probably put it at number 2 for me. But everybody gets their own opinion. That's the fun thing with comics and collecting all that. But this is Witchcraft number 2. It is a really cool cover. I mean, the yellow background is awesome. The black skull is the thing that really makes this cover. Like, you do not see this. I don't know, hardly ever. I don't know if there's another black skull cover out there in the golden age. Like, they're always like white skulls. And so, yeah, it is a cool cover. I totally agree with you. I put Punch 12 above it. Just the main thing for me with Punch 12 is, well, there's a couple things. So one thing is that it's much older. I do really like that it's like 1945. It's like mid 40s. It's early. It's not really it's a crime book. It's not really a pre-code horror book. And so it's like, it's just, to me, it's something where it adds that extra that it's an older book. It's before the pre-code horror type craze. The other thing is that, to me, is like, I just feel like the level of detail on this skull is just kind of like a slightly like another level. Like, it's just, there's a lot going on here. It's not like the person just, drew like, and the other one has detail too. So I don't want to take anything away from that, but, the Eerie comics, like a lot of those skulls feel like they're just drawn relatively quick. Whereas this one feels like there was a lot of effort put into this skull. All right. So let's move on to the next one here. All right. So the next one, this one, I think I had this one in the thumbnail. So not a book you come across very often in 9/8. Now, this one was off-white to white pages. In 9/8, off-white to white pages, you can have 9/8s with, I think, up to off-white. I don't think you can have creamed off-white in a 9/8, but I think I'm pretty certain you can have off-white. You can even have off-white to white in a 9.9. And so I'll show. I always like to point this one out. So Shock Suspense Stories number 6. So the 9.9, there's a 9.9 on the census for Shock Suspense Stories number 6. This Gaines file copy, and it's off-white to white pages. Oh no, this one's the white. I know there's an off-white to white. I'm certain it's this book. Oh no, I don't remember which one it is now. Now I was almost certain it was this book. Okay, I'll have to think about that for a bit. So I'm wrong on that one. But let me see. Is there another 9.9? Let's check. Yeah, there are two 9.9s. I know I've seen that other one. And that other one isn't off-white to white. Oh, no, here. Oh, it is. I don't know. I was reading mint. I don't know. It's this older slab, and I was used to looking at the under the 9.9, and it says mint instead of having the page quality. So yeah, okay, I was right. I'm not going crazy. So yeah, the 9.9 off-white to white, which was something I didn't actually realize until I looked at this copy relatively recently. I mean, maybe within the last like 4 or 5 months. I had thought that I thought if page quality ever mattered, I thought it would be with a 9.9. And and maybe a 10 requires it. I don't know, but I thought that this was interesting that you could still get 9.9 off-white to white pages. I always like to point that kind of stuff out. But going back to Silver Surfer number 4, we got a 9.8, which is just a crazy grade for this book. Now, I did talk about this one in that in my prior video when I talked about this auction, when this auction was coming up, and I said I would not buy this book. This book, the prices on it scared me for how much they had gone up. And usually when these books come back up for sale and you start getting corrections, it doesn't all correct at once. You need multiple sales. And so I felt like, based on where this book had been, that this is much more of like a $30,000, $25,000 to $30,000 book. Is that what I think I said there? And so this one had a peak sale of, let's see here, 90,000. So it did correct 24,000 in this, but I could see it correcting more. And I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So we have Silver Surfer, number 4, 9.8. And, they've come up for sale, every once in a while. And, almost yearly, you get at least one copy. These years, you had 4 copies coming for sale. It's like, look at this. 2004, 6,000, 2015, still only going for like 8,000, 7 to 8,000. 2017, 6 years ago, around 10,000. 2019, 16,800. Then all of a sudden, 90,000. It jumped up more than 5x, between 5 and 6x. Like, and I was talking about that in that video. I'm like, this is a terrifying number to see to me. What we've seen with every other book basically is that they're all returning back down to these like trend lines that they were following before. And this one has a long ways to drop before it gets down to that trend line. And so this was a book that, I knew it would go for something more like this, which is why I estimated it at 60. And that's because we had a 9.6. Oh man, that was a big correction. But we had a 9.6, that had sold for, like, this year, you had 11,400, then 30,000, then 28,000, then 14,000. You've got these books just like jumping all over the place. And like this type of activity, like to me, these bottom points are probably around where this book should be selling. Maybe even those are even a little high. These top points they're nuts. And so I would be very, very cautious with this book right now. Anytime you see something like that, where you still have a huge gap between where this book was selling and where it's selling now, just be wary. It's not a guarantee that the book's going to drop. There's no guarantee that that's going to drop. It could stay up there. It could be a new baseline for the book, but that type of stuff worries me. And that's not a risk that I would ever really want to take. So going back to the Shock 6, you don't like how he draws the dress on the girl in Shock 6, same as Strange Worlds 5. Oh, see, like for me, like personally, like I really liked it. And that's what's always interesting. Like everybody has different takes on books. Like the way, to me, like the way Wally Wood draws, that's how I can always tell it's a Wally Wood cover. It's like he's got this like draped fabric look to the dresses that he has, or the clothing that he has the women wear on those covers. And I just think I don't know. I like the style, me personally, but that's the thing. Everybody likes different stuff. And you don't like that style, but me, I really like it. I think it just has a more realistic feel. It's kind of like the when you see those like marble carvings where they look like fabric, that are like really, really well done, like that look like fabric. Like that's what it looks like to me. Let's see. All right, let's move on to the next one here. So yeah, it went for 10% over what I thought, but I just, this book, like I said, scares me for the prices it's going for. All right, then we had this one here. This is a cool book too. Submariner number 1. Number ones, I always like number ones. Number ones are just an interesting extra that you get, with a book. Now, this one went for right around what I thought too. A little weak, but hardly at all. I had it going for 57,500, went for 55,200. So within 4%. So again, like when I see sales like that, when you're talking about books that sell hardly ever, and you're, really big numbers like that, being within a few percentage points is close enough. But yeah, Submariner number 1, I almost guarantee this is an Alex Schomburg cover. Let's see here. Yeah, covered by Alex Schomburg. He has this way of drawing, like Submariner especially, and Human Torch, where he makes them really large on the page, in this case, like the size of a submarine. And so I always think that looks really cool. So, but a yellow cover, Golden Age yellow cover, a high grade 7.5. And went for right around what I thought it would go for. But not his first appearance. The first appearance was, I'm not going to remember it. It's like that movie pictorial something, where it's like not really a comic, Maybe somebody in the chat can remind me, because it's not Marvel Mystery 1. It came before Marvel Mystery 1. It's like a kind of like a cartoony type cover that has his first appearance. But very expensive book, but yeah, one that always slips my mind what the actual name of that one is. All right, then another one that we've been seeing pop up for sale a lot. So, I mean, very similar to Batman #1, Superman #1. We've been seeing Superman #1 pop up quite a bit. And a lot of them are these lower grades. I mean, they're like 1.0s, 1.5s, 1.8s. Not anything that's okay. Motion Picture Funny Weekly. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, Motion Picture Funny Weekly. But so we've got Superman #1. It's a nice looking 1.5. It's a white pages copy. I believe this one has like a coupon cutout. Yeah, coupon missing from centerfold. I wouldn't be surprised if it has something like, spine splits as well. So yeah, 7.5 inch of spine splits, coupon missing, detached cover. I mean, that's a pretty standard for a 1.5. It's about what you would expect for 1.5. You could maybe think a 1.8 could possibly be what this one could get. I mean, especially because it's just such a nice looking copy. I mean, it's a great looking copy of this book, but went for $174,000. I had this one going for $165,000. Record was $192,000, so not quite a record, but to me a pretty strong sale. Solid sale, 5% over my estimate. Again, that's right in range. I mean, like I talked about with Submariner 1, went a little bit below. This one went a little bit above. So I think this is a solid sale for this book, and I'm sure whoever got it is happy with adding this one. All right. Then the last one that sold in this big signature auction was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. This was also one of the weaker sales. It wasn't, again, not like 30% low or anything, but I had this one going. I think I said 135 to 140 in the prior video I did. So I said that this was 137,500. So that's the average of those two, and went for 120,000. Now it's low, but it's not really surprising because this book got, really, really expensive when during the comic boom. I mean, it almost touched $250,000. There might have been a sale that hit $250,000 that didn't get pulled into GPA, like a Comic Link sale or something. But I think it was like 243 or 245 was the highest publicly recorded sale. And it's just been gradually trending down since then until it's going to, get back into whatever its trend line is. But I mean, yeah, like this is similar. Like, look at this book. Like, it was going for 38,000 back in 2018. Then, 50,000 on the low end in 2019. But then all of a sudden, a $90,000 sale. I remember, I think I was watching, it was like Comic Tom or something, and like Golden Age Guru was on, Jeff. And he was talking about this $90,000 sale, like how shocking that sale was. Like that was a huge, huge number in 2019. And then it proceeded, to do the whole comic boom thing and went up to 245,000. I mean, from what it was 3 years ago, 6 or 7, what would that be? 8 times? Let me see my math right here. 7 times, 6 times. Went for about 6 times what it went, 3 years prior. And so anytime we saw that, like those numbers just aren't sustainable. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this one, keeps trending down a little bit over the next, couple of years. But the 9.8s don't come up for sale all that often. I mean, you can see here, 1 or 2 times a year. And so it takes a while for those corrections to come into place. And what may happen is that it may actually eventually overlap with whatever this trend line was. And then it just won't drop anymore. It's back on the trend line, even though it didn't go back to those 2020 or whatever type prices. It got back to the trend from where it was in 2020. But yeah, so I mean, the total for all these sales was $1,924,800 for those 16 books, and then I had estimated at $1,987,000. So I went for, I felt like it was a solid auction. Like it was a solid auction. Things generally went for around what I expected them to. And similar on the other days that we had these books. They had, these auctions are huge. There are tons of books that are selling in these auctions. And I just generally felt that sales were pretty strong. I'm curious, was there anybody, if in the chat, if there's anybody that picked up any books in this auction, make sure to, leave a comment and talk about that, or we can go check out that book, because yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff that sold in this auction. There's a comment here. Imagine being that guy that shelled out 240,000 only 2 years ago, and now it's half that. Yeah, I mean, the only like saving grace is that if they had the money to spend 240,000 on that TMNT one, probably you would hope that wasn't like a huge percentage of their like net worth or their assets, and that it's not a big deal that they lost it. I mean, nobody likes losing 100 grand, I'm sure, but if you're worth 100 million, losing 100 grand probably isn't too bad. But yeah, that would, for me, that would hurt a lot. I definitely don't have that kind of money. So yeah, for me, that would hurt a lot. Right. So the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about just briefly was something I thought was interesting in this sale. And it was one of the items that was supposed to sell earlier. And I was just thinking about it because I can just imagine the fear that went through the person that won this item. So if you're not familiar with what happened, it was the 6th item that came up for sale, and actually should have been the biggest sale of the entire auction. And it was this. It was the Frank Frazetta Death Dealer 6 painting, original art from 1990. So you can see it has a buy now number here. And that is because the person, at least because this is what I saw, because this wasn't showing up in my list. Like I had the list of all the books, and when I would export the data, it was like this wasn't in there. And so it was messing up my numbers, and I was like, what is going on? What's missing? And ended up it was this one. This wasn't in the results. And that was because it didn't sell. And it's because the person, I think, backed out on paying. That's my guess. I'm speculating. I don't know for sure. I'm speculating. But what I think probably happened was, if you remember when, I think it was like one of the high grade Batman ones, Golden Age Guru made a post on Instagram where he recorded himself bidding on it. And he bid like $1 million or something like that, with the idea that, oh, this thing is definitely going to sell for more than this. And so I think he bid, and he got auto bid over it, so it ended up not mattering. So now, okay, so there's a comment here that says there were no bids. I didn't think this one had a starting bid though. I could be wrong, maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't think this one had a preset bid. Let me see, because when I downloaded that original data for this one, it showed a bid already on it. And so maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong if that's what it was. But yeah, if that's the case, then yeah, it's surprising that this one went for that. But I was under the impression that somebody didn't pay. But okay, so there was a reserve, and that was set to 1.8. Because then I think it was right below that then, because the bid in my spreadsheet was like 1.74 or 1.76. So I'm surprised nobody would make that like one extra little leap to get that book. But okay, yeah, that's good to know that it had a reserve, because I was thinking when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, like imagine like having like bid and expecting someone else to bid, to overbid you, and then it like goes to the live, and then there's no new bids coming in, and like I would just be panicking. But no, that's good to know that it actually had a reserve, because you rarely see reserves in these auctions. So that's a surprise to me. Like I don't think I've ever seen an item that I can think of offhand that I've bid on, at least, that has a reserve. They're almost always like starting at nothing, or like $1 or whatever it is. But okay, that's good to know that it had a reserve. All right. But okay, so I want to jump to, unless there's any comments in the chat, there's another topic I wanted to jump to, and that was these scam sales that are not sales, but auctions that keep popping up on Instagram. And they're always going to be there, and it's like I post about them every once in a while on Instagram, make sure, try to make sure people are aware of them. But they always have, or almost always have, the exact same, components to them. And so it's You can see like I marked these 3 just, because they're 3 that are out there right now. They're an extremely expensive book. They are from a seller that has 0 feedback, almost always a new seller. They are an auction, and like and there's a reason for that. So when I was new to selling on eBay, they actually put a restriction on your account with what you can list for fixed price listings. I think mine was like $500 or something. And it wasn't until you had sold a few things and gotten some feedback, successfully shipped your items, they would move out they would increase what your limit is on what you could list. And so that's why these are always auctions, because you can put anything up at auction because you're starting it at 99 cents or $1 or whatever. But I mean, let's look at this one first. We've got crime suspense stories, number 22. And this one, when you have these white backgrounds in the back, you can almost guarantee that this is a listing from Heritage. This is what almost all the Heritage listings, at least current Heritage listings, and I think this was a sale from maybe 4 or 5 years ago, look like. So if you see an image like this, where you have the white in the background, it is likely not that seller's picture. Then you've got, the 0 feedback here, because obviously they haven't sold or shipped anything. You often have a name that's like this, where it's something like a series of letters with a number on the end. It's like whether it's 64, 65, 66. So when you see a name like this, you see 0 feedback, you see a really expensive book, you see an auction, just don't bid on it. Now, I know some of these bids might be fake bids, like where they're trying to make it seem real. But that if they keep doing this, it works some of the time. And now what is likely happening and what actually works for them to get people is they probably aren't actually successfully selling the book on eBay. Now, it is true that eBay will side with the buyer most of the time, but even if they do, a lot of the time it might take a while to get your money back. You might have to go through your credit card to get your money back, because what that seller might do is they might still ship something. They might ship an empty box or a box that has something that's weighted in it or whatever. And then you have to report it and say like, oh, I didn't get what what I was supposed to. And eBay has to believe you, so they likely will side with you, but it's possible they don't. And you could just be out your money. But the other thing they do is they have these links in their listings, which is supposed to be against the rules per eBay's listing policy. You are not allowed to have external site links in your listings. And they always do. And it's because what they're doing. Oh, and hey, Crazy for Comics, thanks for joining the chat. Because what they're doing is they're taking you to a third-party site. And then when you pay, now you don't have eBay to help defend you and get your money back. And so you're going through here, they're probably going to be like, oh, pay me through, PayPal friends and family, or pay me through Venmo or through Cash App, something where you have no recourse to get your money back. And then you're screwed. And they'll probably be like, oh, we'll give it to you for less. If you reach out to them, like, oh yeah, it's like, we know you bid this, but we'll give it to you for a little bit less, because they're not going to give it to you anyway. And so, you see stuff like this, like, don't click on these links. Don't go to those sites. They do not have these items. So it's just like, you see the number of bids, and yeah, like I said, some are probably, fake bids to make it look real, just to get people thinking like, oh, someone else bidded, on it, it must be fine. And then they get, you to bid, or you to think like, I'll reach out to them. But yeah, there's that one. Then there's, like Captain America number 3 and a 6.5, it's at $6,700. I mean, 42 bids. Some of those have got to be real. Like, I think some of those have got to be real, but like a 6.5, this is, I don't know, what is this? Like a $50,000 book, probably something like that, maybe even a little more than that. And, it's sitting at 6,700, meaning most people know it's fake, but somebody will likely get, scammed on this thing. And again, you go down here. Oh, look, it's TS Collectibles again. And, they have a link, and that's where you can go and buy that item. I thought that one, I posted about this one on Instagram. I thought this one was really funny, because their name, FAUDR, like, you just move that R, it spells fraud. Like, their name almost spells fraud. Like, I feel like they're almost trolling. Like, the people that they're selling to, like they're almost trolling by basically, putting fraud into their name. then the last one that was on here is being, by the same seller, this, Fraud 70, was this Vampirella #1. Like a 9.6, I think is like a $20,000 book. Let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure a 9.6 is around a $20,000 book. So yeah, last sale, $19,800. It had a peak sale of $21,221. So yeah, around a $20,000 book. And I don't know what this background is. That doesn't look like Heritage, but it's possible that it's a slightly different one, because it's the magazine slabs. But one quick thing, like this is something that I recommend for people, is like whether you have GPA or Go Collect or whatever. If you go to Go Collect, you look up Vampirella #1. You can go check this one out, and we go to the to 9.6. So this is one of the nice things here, is that they have all these images right here for you. And so you can kind of scroll down and you can maybe find the one that looks like, and this one, that could be it. Let's see. So this is, I don't know, it looks a little different, because what they usually will try to do is they'll try to grab one that was, so let's see. Oh, that looks like it. So we'll go check this one out. So it's sold on Heritage. Let's see if this is it. 6001. Oh no, 7001. All right, so we haven't found it yet, but I bet it's on here somewhere. But yeah, that's why I think what they probably do is go to, let's see here. I think this is it. Yeah, there we go. So you can see here 0913987001 and 0913987001, and it's the exact same picture. And so, like, I think that's probably what they do. They either go to Heritage, go to their site, or they go to Go Collect or whatever, and they find a picture from, pick one from 6-7 years ago, so they think maybe you won't notice it, and that's what they use for the the fraudulent listing. So I mean, the big thing, just at least if you're watching this channel, I don't want you to get scammed by by this kind of stuff. Now, I did joke on Instagram that if you get scammed by the person that has fraud in their name, that you kind of deserve it. But still, like, I don't want somebody to get scammed on this. Like, don't click on these links. These things are not real sales. Oh yeah, see, newcomers, we're offering a 7% discount if you went to their website. Like, oh yeah, you get an even better deal on that book that doesn't exist. So yeah, just be careful out there with that kind of stuff. Let's see. Just want to check the comments here. So we have a comment. If I had the money, I'd rather have Hulk 180 Wolverine artwork. Oh, so do you mean the final page? I'm curious if that exists. I don't know. Like that's the type of stuff I don't even, that original artwork. I am not familiar with original artwork. I definitely don't pretend to understand that stuff. But let's see, Hulk 180 original art. So we'll go to the past sold items, because I'd be interested to know if that page exists. I imagine it would go for a ton of money. So yeah, I mean, there is the original art for Hulk 180. Let's see if there is a Wolverine one. I don't see it. So it doesn't mean it does. Oh no, here it is. Is this it? Yeah. Wow. Sold in 2014 for $657,000. There you go. So Hulk 180, final page 32, first ever appearance of Wolverine. So if you're wondering what it might cost you to get this, 9 years ago, it would have cost you $657,000. So, I mean, I doubt we can really make a comparison like this, but let's look up Hulk 180 and see where it was in 2014 versus today, to see if we can make any type of guess about what that might sell for today. Because I mean, if you've got that Secret Wars 8 like internal page that sold for like whatever it was, 3.2 or 3.6 million, I mean, I think this would go for more. So let's see. So we've got, we'll start with a 9.8, see if we've got some numbers for it. So back in 2014, a 9.8 of Hulk 180 was going for around $3,000. Let's say the middle point, let's say $2,800. Today, going for around 2,200. And so we're at like 8 times more, 9 times more. So we could make a rough estimate maybe that this would sell for, what would be 540, around 6 million, you know, roughly. And I wouldn't be shocked. Like if this came up for sale again, if this page came up for sale again and it sold for 6 million, I would not be surprised at that number. I mean, that's cool that it exists, because you always wonder about that. Like if this stuff is really gonna exist, but man, wow. Yeah. So you're saying, you said it's on Heritage. Maybe this is the one you're talking about. Or I didn't know if it's coming up for sale again. Like if it's in like their next like big signature auction or something, but that would be a cool item to see come up for sale again, would be this one. It's the same as that Hulk 180, Hulk 181, the 9.9. I would love to see that 9.9 come up for sale again and see what it goes for. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing came up for sale again, that first ever time you have Wolverine on a page, the original art, so that he's actually like, if you had this, you're not going to get it slabbed, right? But if you had it in some type of frame and presented, like it's on the cover, right? Like it's the first thing. So it's no longer hidden inside the book. You know, you actually have that out there. I mean, I wouldn't, it's the type of thing I wouldn't be surprised if it went for more than that. I'm curious, like in the chat, like what would you pay for, if you had the money, if money was no object, what would you pay for that first page of original art for Hulk 180? I'd be interested to know that. All right. This comment's real funny. Yeah, with a 7% discount, at least you got scammed for less. that is a good point. Yeah, you can at least save 7% on your scam. But yeah, so now there were a couple other things I thought I'd talk about. Let's see if, I don't even know if is the Heritage auction still going. Bid live. It is still going. There were a lot of items tonight. I was surprised. So for Golden Age, there had been like typically Golden Age ends in like an hour and a half, something like that. There's usually like 200, 250 items at the most. Like tonight, I think it goes over 400. Yeah, the final item I'm at least watching is Zago number 4, and that's item number 418. And there's probably more after that. Like usually there's like books and things that sell on this opening night. So there's a lot of stuff in this auction tonight. Man, I don't know what Superman 35 and a 7.5 goes for, but it's sitting at 5,000. Like, because this is an example of a type of cover that, like me personally, I don't really care for this type of cover. These, like, I call them campy covers. They're kind of the fun, jokey type covers, and they just, they don't really appeal to me. But everybody, can like different things. But yeah, so that one sold for $5,000. Let's check that out. I'm curious what that, like, if that was a good sale, if that was a weak sale. I mean, it's an old label, but you never really know. I mean, these old labels have been around for a long time now, and so a lot of people have typically handled them. And so if somebody thought it could, bump up to a higher grade, they probably would have done it. But let's see here, Superman number 35. Is that right? Yeah, 7.5. White pages. Which, yeah, Golden Age 1945 white pages. We were talking about that earlier. So a 7.5. Whoa. Is that right? What am I missing? I don't know what's going on there. I mean, is there like $4,000 like stuffed in the pages of this book? Like, I don't know what's going on with that sale. Like, I mean, even if you thought it could bump, I mean, there's a tear up. Let's take a close look at this one. So there's a tear up here, and that's probably like, I mean, you get some leeway with bindery issues, but that's definitely a tear. That's more than just a bindery issue. And the spine looks good. There's a little crease there, little minor crease down there, a little chip in the corner, small amount of creasing there. I mean, it is a very nice looking book from the front. Let's check if there's any graders note. I doubt it. Oh, there are. Okay. Graders notes: center back cover light bend, center front cover light bend, top left front cover small tear, right top back cover wear, spine wear, staple wear, top back cover bend. So when you're looking at something for like possible opportunities for upgrading, you know, like if you're going to try to crack a book out, press it, and resubmit, like the magical words that you can see is bend, you know, whether it's finger bends or this, like it's a light bend. Those are things that can definitely be addressed. It means they are generally non-color breaking, because usually the note will say if it breaks color. Now, that is something to be aware of with grader notes. Grader notes are not all inclusive. So there's no guarantee that it has everything that's in there. Like there could be foxing or staining or something like that that isn't identified here. But at least the top back cover bend and center back cover, center front cover light bend, those could be addressed. This tear couldn't. This wear could not, spine wear could not, staple wear could not. So I would say this book probably can get a better grade. Let's take a look what else is going on here. So here's that wear that's up here, you know, so that's what they were talking about. It's just like some color rub type wear. There's a little, looks like tear or maybe even a missing piece right there. There is foxing on this cover, and that's what I was talking about there. That foxing was not identified in those graders notes. So that's where you need to be able to evaluate the book yourself to determine if you think this book can get a bump or not, because I would almost guarantee you this is going to be taken into consideration. If you're not familiar with foxing, it's these little brown dots that are on the cover. And while foxing doesn't hurt your grade too bad, it's not as bad as staining, it definitely impacts your grade. I mean, it is something that does impact the grade of the book. So we definitely see it along the spine. There's, you know, little dots of it here and there throughout the back of the book. Now, some of those new like treatment methods that if CGC catches you, they will give you a purple label. So you got, you know, you take a risk with doing that. But man, like when you look at the pricing for this book, like a 9.4 sold last year for $2,700. The 9.8 pedigree sold for $7,800. Like there's no way that book is a 9.4. I mean, you might be lucky if it gets like an 8 or an 8.5, and that was an $1,100 sale last year. I would not. I try not to like make someone like feel bad about a purchase or anything like that, you know. But that was a huge number for this book, and I do not think it has it in it to get the grade that would need to. It would need to be a 9.6. I mean, the only way that this would make sense is if it was a 9.6 or a 9.8, and there's no way. That's yeah. That was a big sale for that book. That's why it kind of surprised me, because a lot of times these like campy type covers don't get these numbers, and so yeah, unless I'm missing something, like there's like another book included. I mean, there's not. so yeah, that was a big sale for that book. There's a question. Ryan, do you own original art? I do not. I don't own any original art. I have bid on a couple things. Like there was some Matt Baker original art one on that. That was like that Baker specific auction that they had maybe a month ago or 3 weeks ago, something like that. I bid on one of the original art pieces. I did not win it. And there was a Comic Link piece of original art that I wish I would have bid on it now. It was like a Bronze Age horror cover, but it was just a really cool cover. And it just didn't, I mean, it was like $4,000, which is a lot of money, but for original art, for like something that looked like, that cool. And It's horror genre, but not like Golden Age horror stuff. I kind of wish I would, if I could go back in time, I probably would have at least thrown in another bid to try and get that one. Um, but yeah, Superman Golden Age books have been going up, but not like that. Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, Mickey's talked about that some on his channel. Yeah, I agree. I've been seeing some Superman Golden Age books going up, but not like that. Yeah, Mike, which one did I bid on? I think it was the it was one where I wasn't sure if it was going to. Well, here, let me find it. I can almost guarantee you I have it. If you guys give me a moment, I've got my little spreadsheet here. Where is, I think I saved that Heritage Signature Auction, Bobby Blue, magazine collection, Heritage Auction. I don't know. When did that? Oh, Baker auction. Okay. So let me find that one. I had won a couple things in that one, so I have my little spreadsheet reduced down. So I bid on, I believe, either the first one or the second one. So let's see here. So we had Comics number 4. Most past sales, and I think it was, let's do most recent. Where are you? Okay, so this was this one. So I didn't bid on this one, so I think I bid on this one. It doesn't say it, but I know I bid on this one. Usually it says like when you've bid. But it was this one. It was this lot number 2. And the only reason I didn't bid was that, so it was Alex Bloom and Matt Baker. And I didn't really want like a mixed cover. Like this looks like Baker, but like this face, I don't know what, this doesn't really look like Baker. And so I didn't really want one that was like a mix of Matt Baker and another artist. And so that's why I ended up not bidding on it. I mean, it's still a cool page, and you've got what Baker's known for. You've got the, attractive woman on the page and that kind of thing. And really like $2,400 felt super cheap. So like, I feel like I maybe should have, thrown in another bid on it, but this was the one that almost certain I bid on this one, but I don't see the little note that usually goes with it when I've thrown in a bid. What do I think of selling pages of a key comic? So if you watched our live stream that we did, this was the first night, I think. And this was when it was Mickey, Drew, and I, and we were on Drew's channel the first night. And there were these like pages. It was like there had been a full like Captain America 3, I think, like all the pages from a Captain America 3. Then there were like some other pages that sold from like a Captain America 10 or 12. And like one of the pages sold for like, it was like $12. It was like $12 or $5 or $20. It was something ridiculously low. And we were just kind of teasing, we were joking, and we were like, like you should just like buy pages right now. They're super cheap. But so for me with selling individual pages, I would not break up a complete book to sell it as pages. I wouldn't have broken up that Cap 3. That Cap 3, you could tell it was probably missing the centerfold based on the pages that we could see. It was like probably a coverless copy missing the centerfold, but that's so close to complete. There's no way I would have done that. If you found something where it was like a random 1 or 2 pages, I can understand that, but I would never break up a book to individually sell the pages. Now, to value some really low grade books, that's sometimes what I've done to value it, not as something that I was planning to ever do. Like I had bid on that, the Batman 1, and that was missing a cover. And it was, the reason was that, I felt like it was too low. It ended up going more than I wanted to spend. I didn't win that one. But the way I valued it though was based on pages. I was never going to tear it apart or anything like that, because if it's a complete book, I just can't imagine tearing it apart. And so, but that is how I valued it, just because it's so hard to value something like that, where it's like missing something critical like the front cover. But that's how I would approach valuing like a coverless book or, you know, whatever. But no, I'm not interested in breaking apart a book and selling it page by page. What do you think of the Silver Streak 14 sale? I don't know. Was that tonight? I don't know if I was watching that one. Let me check. Or was that? I mean, let me know in the chat if it was in a different one. I wasn't. Oh, I was watching a Silver Streak 14. Okay, yeah, let's take a look. I didn't price that one out. I didn't have time to price everything. So Silver Streak 14. Oh, this was a cool one. I did price that one. What did it go for? Because I was really interested in that book. Oh, dang it. All right, before I get to the Silver Streak 14, let's take a look at this one, because I was really interested in this book because it felt like it was really low a little while ago. I really like Walt Disney's Comics and Stories. It's one of those things where there are key covers in the run. And I feel like the ones that are like really key, a lot of the key covers, the early ones, are the ones that are related to World War II. They're, you know, selling war bonds, or they've got a flag, or, you know, you've got Donald Duck dressed up as Uncle Sam, that kind of thing. So this is 1944, a 9-4, creamed off white pages. So you can get creamed off white pages with a 9-4, and, you know, number 46. So I had this one as 2,850. It went for 2,400. Its peak sale was 3,240, so 3,240. So I feel like whoever picked this one up got it for a pretty good price. You know, I don't know if someone in the chat picked this one up, but I feel like whoever picked this book up, I mean, that's a cool book. That is, you know, a very iconic cover. A 9-4, like a near mint for 1944, is amazing. And so $2,400 feels like it was a pretty good price for that book. There were a couple others that I was watching that are coming up pretty soon. I don't know. Let's see. Let me see where that one's sitting right now. Okay, I don't think I'm going to bid, but this is one of these Matt Baker covers, and this is one has been becoming a more popular cover, a more in demand cover. Is Wartime Romances number 5. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that one get some bids in a few moments. But you had that question about the Silver Streak. So let's see. So Silver Streak number 14. So we'll pull that up here on GPA. And then we will, let's see, what was the number for that one? 17331. All right. So, oh yeah, this one. I remember this one. I'd been interested in that. I think it was restored, right? Yeah, parent. So spine rebuilt, pieces added, tear seals. So probably would get, probably would get a fair, maybe like, I don't know if we would get a 5, but probably a 3 or a 4 on the restored scale. But this is a tough book, not one you see come up for sale very often. All right. I want to see what this Wartime Romances goes for. I had that one at 400. It's sitting a little below it right now at 312, but it's one of those I wouldn't really be surprised if it went for more. Yeah, there we go. Already up above 400. Like I said, this is one that has been getting more and more popular. And it seems like what probably happened is we had that huge Baker auction a few, I don't know, like I said, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, something like that. And a lot of those had, I think, some of the more higher grade stuff. And so I noticed a ton of Baker books in this auction today. And so what I think, it's probably like they had a bunch of stuff ready to go for that big auction. And they, this is like a lot of the books that didn't quite make the cut for that one. And they're in here. I mean, that was a big sale, $540. Like I said, I had that going for 400. But back to that Silver Streak, 4,560. I mean, it doesn't sound crazy because I know that's a really expensive book. I mean, look at this. Like, it's like, this is one of those books where you just go like, okay, how do I price this thing? I mean, let's see if there's any restored or qualified ones even on here. All right. So your only sale, unless there was another one in the 7.0. Yeah, 2012. So your only sale since this 170 was in 2016, we had a C1 3.0 and a C1 1.8. So the only thing we can really go off of is a 7.0 that went for $11,628. So for that, the price per point is about 1,500, a little more than 1,500, like 1650. So it's around 1650 per point for this. So this book, they were saying, was a 2.0 with what would probably be like moderate to even maybe more than moderate restoration, maybe moderate / extensive. And it went for $4,560 for a 2.0. So, I mean, if it was a 2.0 unrestored, I could see it going for the 4,560. Because this is one where I feel like the buy-in is probably really high, just to get a copy. But I mean, it feels high, but it's also one of those where, I mean, when you look at GPA, it's like, okay, you could have bought one this year that went for almost $12,000, or before that, the last one that sold was 7 years ago. So that's one of those things where it's like with some of these golden age books, like when they're extremely rare like that. I mean, let's take a look at the census. I mean, 17 universals, 19 total. And with that 17 universals, you can tell people don't like selling them. I mean, when you have one that has sold in the last 7 years. So, yeah, I mean, it's a big number, but I would say it's not like a shocking number just because it is so rare. I could see the person that just wants to get a copy and they're willing to pay whatever it takes to get it. But yeah, that was definitely a big sale. Hey, Mickey. Yep. Thanks for joining the chat. Oh, is the writer's strike over? I didn't know that. I had heard that they, like, maybe a couple days ago, that things were maybe coming to a conclusion, but I hadn't heard anything official yet. So, I mean, who knows? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that means everything's going to the moon now. Okay, yeah, you're saying the first third was Baker. Okay, yeah, so those top few panels, yeah, because like the lower stuff didn't feel like Baker, and so that's why that was what really held me back on that one. Oh, you almost bought the Contact Comics 12 tonight. So yeah, let's go take a look at that Contact Comics number 12. So if you're not familiar with Contact Comics number 12, it is an LB Cole cover, and let me find that number and pull it up. 17089. So 17089. This is Contact Comics number 12. It's kind of like this, it's like a futuristic, and you would call it, I don't know what the term would be for it. I'm blanking on the term for it, but a lot of people like this cover. I am not a huge fan of this cover. I will probably get, like, just yelled at by by LB Cole fans. I mean, because I'm an LB Cole fan. I like LB Cole. I like a lot of the LB Cole covers. This one hasn't ever really done it for me. But it is a very in-demand book. So if we look up, let's remove those. We look up Contact number 12. So it said it went for $2,400. So let's see kind of where that sits. So this was a 2.5. I mean, so right in line with the last sale, but below where its peak had been. So in 2021, it had a sale of almost $4,000. So let's see, I had estimated this one at $2,600 because it had that more recent sale here, and you'd had the 2.0 for $1,900, and then 6.5 going for around $1,000 a point up here. That was back in 2021 though, and so I mean $1,000 a point seems almost pretty consistent across all grades for this book. So I think it probably went around, it went a little bit low from what I thought, but around where I thought it would go. But yeah, a lot of people do really like this cover. It's just, I don't know, for me, this one hasn't had as much appeal to me as some of his other stuff. But let's see here. So I've been trying to locate a Walt Disney Comics and Stories number 33 Infinity cover. Yeah, the Infinity covers are always cool. I like those. Like the yeah, I think it fits well with Walt Disney's Comics and Stories because it's the Infinity covers generally to me feel a little more like let's see, always tough to search on and go collect. There we go. Yeah, I mean, like to me, the Infinity covers like this fit well on these more like cartoonish type character covers, and so I really like this one. I don't like it as much on Batman number 8. I think it's Batman number 8. That is the yeah. Like this one doesn't appeal to me quite as much because I like it when Batman and Robin are like out there, in some action sequence or punching someone on the cover or whatever. So like the Batman 8, it doesn't appeal to me, but I agree. I really like that Walt Disney's Comics and Stories 33. Let's see. Mickey says that aliens are going to want to see those sci-fi covers. Yeah. So for our alien overlords that we're eventually going to be introduced to, you want to have as many sci-fi books as possible. But so for me, like my peak sci-fi LB Cole cover is one of my my keeper books, and it's this Blue Bolt number 105. I love this cover, and so like one of there's a couple things I like about this cover. So there's with Golden Age, I'm always looking for, those multiple elements on the book. And so this one, you've got the LB Cole cover. That's one thing. You've got the, kind of like the good, it's alien, but a good girl art, cover, the attractive woman on the cover. You've got this like fantastical creature. You've got the black background, which I always like. And the thing I like with this one with LB Cole is that the level of detail that he put into this cover is very high. And so that's one of the things, like with the Contact Comics 12, I feel like the level of detail isn't there. Like it's not the same. It's a lot earlier. It's 1946, but the level of detail isn't really there. Whereas with like Blue Bolt 105, I mean, it's just like all the shading on the wings and the hero and like just all these little fine details and everything that he put into it. Just that's one of the things that really draws me to this book is that you can tell he put a lot of time and effort into this one. And, and it's such a large scene that's going on there. I mean, you've got a little bit of like the planets and stuff in the background here, but just the main scene on there is so large for this cover. That's what really, really appeals to me with that one. But, all right, then I had a couple other things I was thinking of talking about on this stream. But if anybody's got any, again, appreciate everybody joining me in the chat tonight. If you've got any questions or anything, make sure to throw them in there, and happy to answer them. But let's see. I've been going through Reddit, the comic book collecting subreddit, and there were a few different stories that I've come across that I thought would just be interesting to talk about. And this one, there's a few reasons for this one here. So this is dilemma over a late friend's copy of Ultimate Fallout 4. So the story here is, unfortunately, this person's friend passed away during the pandemic, and there had some kind of like agreement, or his wife had said that if that had ever happened, if he passed away, something happened to him, that his friend here should come over and go through his collection and help sell it and, that kind of stuff. And so the first question that came in here is one of the books that he had found was this Ultimate Fallout 4. And I get the impression from what he's talking about here that this is probably one of the most expensive books in this group, if not the most expensive book. And so he had a question on, should he sell the book, or whether that's getting it graded and then sell it, or should he have it set aside, so that the wife that's still, there taking care of their kids, can keep it, and, whether it's pass it down to the kids or use it later, sell it later, that kind of thing. So my immediate reaction, and I'd be interested to hear in the chat what other people's thoughts are on this. But my immediate thought was that they should sell it. And so part of the reason being that you just, when I think about, someone who is not a collector, because if they're having, someone else come in and do this for them, that means that their spouse is not a collector. The likelihood of this book not getting put aside or lost or damaged or, something like that ends up taking the value away from it anyway is probably pretty high. Even if it's graded, something can still happen. Slabs do not help the book keep its value for, like in its condition forever if you still are tossing them around or not handling them well. And so my thought was that, in this case, like if this is especially a situation where they need money because of the spouse passing away, my initial thought was just sell the book. I would not have somebody keep it, whether it's for their kids or anything. If they want to buy something again later to remind them of their father, I would do that, or have some other item to remind them of their father. But yeah, I think in this situation, I would just sell. That's my take on it. But the other thing that I thought was important to point out with this was I think that the way they handled this was really something impressive, because you don't see this very often. And so what you often will find is that something happens where someone passes away and you have, the spouse or the kids or whatever that aren't familiar with comics, and someone comes in and takes advantage of them. And so this, whether, whoever that is, like whether that's a dealer or they do like some type, they're like, oh, we'll just sell it in a garage sale. And like they're selling books that are worth $100 for $1 or a quarter and that kind of stuff. But this, they had a friend that they knew that could take care of this. And so if I talk about this with people like selling collections and all this talk, kind of right now where there are a lot of collections popping up and that kind of thing, it is worthwhile. This is one of those situations where I think it is worthwhile to pay someone to come in and have them evaluate what you have. Now, I think probably the most fair, something I've been thinking about, is probably the most fair way to do it is you have them come in and you have some type of contract agreement. And it's like when you sell the books, they get 10% of it or something. And, because then that person that's coming in they will benefit as well when you sell these books. That is going to help gain their honesty. And because if you don't know them, now, if you know the person, that's another thing. But if you don't know them, like, you see like some of these like big collections that come in that, are worth just huge sums of money. And you wonder, like, is the person not bringing someone in to evaluate it because they don't trust them or they don't know? And I feel like this situation was handled very well to have somebody that, so just something that if you have a big collection, if that's something like, because you never know what's going to happen in your future. If you have a big collection, like, make some type of agreement with someone that, whether that could even be a dealer that you trust or, something like that, whether that's a friend or whoever it is, make some type of deal with someone that, to help handle this situation, because it could be, maybe it's just hundreds of dollars, but it could be thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. You never know. And if you don't have the knowledge, there's no way you're going to know what you have. And even if you can recognize something is an expensive book, if you don't know how to grade, you don't really know what those books are worth. And so, one example that I always like to point out was one that Alex the Comic Hoarder uses, and that's with he uses salt shakers, like as the example. And it's like, if you have 100 salt shakers on the table and one of those salt shakers is worth $1,000, the only person that knows that is a salt shaker expert, and so they're going to come in and they're going to pick that $1,000 salt shaker out of there. So you want to have your own salt shaker expert that can handle these types of situations for you, in this type of situation. And I think this was handled very well. Like, I think that comic should be sold personally, but regardless what decision he makes or this person makes, I think that was a great way to handle that. We've got a comment here. I bid on that Heritage auction, tried to get the Mask 1 with the LB Cole cover. Got into a bidding war with one individual who eventually outbid me. No hard feelings as valuation became too high. Yeah, I felt that Mask 1 went very high. I agree with you that Mask 1 went really high, especially when you look at the other sales around it. Yeah, if we let's see here, we can show that copy. So Mask Comics #1. So it was, I think, like a 2.0. I'm pretty sure it was like a 2.0. Yeah. Yeah. So this 2.0 went for $12,600 when last year a 2.0 went for $7,300. And then we had a 1.8 last year go for $4,800. There was this big sale here for a 3.0, but that was $13,800. So if you're, I mean, you're kind of doing, you know, approximate price per point. I think I had valued this. Well, I can tell you, I'm almost certain I priced that one out. So that Heritage Signature Auction, Mass Comics #1, I had valued it at 8,000, and I wouldn't be surprised if it had gone for like 10. But 12.6 was a very, very strong number. But if you're not familiar with Mass Comics #1, it's one of the LB Cole covers. Some people like Mass Comics 2 more. Some people like Mass Comics 1 more. I mean, one of the chats I'm in with Mickey, like there's conversations occasionally around that about which one is better. I personally like Mass Comics #1 more. I used to like #2 more, but then I was able to see a 1 and a 2 in person next to each other, and one just, I don't know, it there's something about it that just like blew me away a little bit more than Mass Comics #2. Again, not taking anything away from Mass Comics #2, but #1 is the one for me. But I mean, I think it's just such a cool cover. I mean, you've got the black background, you've got kind of like this evil candle pulling these like fairies in. You've got these fairies that have the singed wings, you know, down at the bottom here. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a really cool cover. I don't know if did 2 sell in the same auction? Not right next to it, but Mass Comics #2 is a devil cover, and so Mass Comics 2. So this is Mass Comics #2. Still, I mean, like I said, it's a great cover, and so it's got a lot of these like real unique faces all around the outside. You've got this classic LB Cole devil who he reuses on a number of different covers. And so, yeah, I mean, this is also a great cover. I don't want to take anything away from it, but one is my personal favorite. So you said, I've given my wife all the info she needs to sell my collection if something happens to me, also potential buyer's info. Yeah, and that's a great way to do it. Whether you have like whether it's your estate planning, you know, that kind of thing, like you have some type of plan put in place for how it should be dealt with. Just because, yeah, I mean, if you've spent all this time, like a lot of people, it's like their lifetime putting these collections together, and then to sell it for pennies on the dollar, you know, like, and to not actually realize the gains from all that time and effort that was put into it. I don't know. Like, it's just like, it's one of those things where to me, it's similar to like when people won't pay for GPA or Go Collect or you know, whatever these services, and you know, then they're buying $10,000, $20,000 comics, trying to evaluate books based on eBay sales to save $10. It's like, no, like spend a little bit of money to make sure you don't lose a lot of money. That's how I like to approach those types of situations. So the 2.0, I was wondering if it was slightly sun faded. Let's see here. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, it looks like maybe it's not quite as bright, but it looks pretty good. Like the colors look pretty good on this copy. I mean, let's take a look at like the 3.0. I don't want to look at like a 9.8 or something like that. I want to look at a comparable grade. So I mean, yeah, the colors look a little brighter on that one. It's like it could almost even be like maybe the lighting from the picture. It's hard to tell for sure. Like, cause like this one, like the yellow looks almost like darker. Like it's almost like it's maybe got some tanning to it. Maybe not even tanning, but some kind of like yellowing to it. So it's hard to say for sure. I mean, they both look pretty great. Like the reds look a little faded. I will agree with that, but it could just be the print, you know, yeah. So it's like the reds could be a little faded, but it still looks pretty great. Yes, I did see that Semper Fi won the Cap 120. I'm also pretty certain that the Detective Comics 29 that I was talking about earlier was his, that he sold in that, because I know he had that book. I don't know if he had sold it to someone else first or if that was his that sold in the Heritage Auction, but yes, I was aware of that. AF15, is there a minimum grade you would purchase or just grab one if you financially can? Well, I own a AF 15.5 and it is missing a page. And so the minimum grade that I would purchase for an Amazing Fantasy 15 is a 0.5. I don't have any problems with 0.5s, especially in major books like that. You know, it's that what does it take to get into it? You know, we talked about at the beginning of the stream that Action Comics 1, you know, that sold for 408,000 or whatever it was. You know, it's like certain books, like if it's big enough, you know, no problem with having a 0.5 for me. I got a question here. Between huge sales of Tears of the Jungle, Contact Mask, and others, does it feel like we're in a bit of an LB Cole bubble? I don't know. I mean, I'd actually felt like, I think I've talked about this in, I don't know, another video or stream or something like that. LB Cole, right before the comic boom, had been really having some big sales. And so this was very early on when I was getting into comics. But my older brother, who's been in, you know, buying and selling comics and everything for quite a bit longer than I have, he was talking about that at cons and everything, he was seeing just like huge demand for LB Cole and big prices for LB Cole. And that seemed to run into the let's see here, and that seemed to run into the comic boom a little bit, but then it almost felt like it got a little like overheated, you know, and like LB Cole books kind of lost their favor a little bit, and people were moving on to other things, whether that was like Alex Schomburg war covers or, you know, Matt Baker romance stuff is like huge right now. But over the last, you know, few months, I've seen this resurgence again in demand for the LB Cole books, especially like the key type books. I mean, if you watched that the Comic Connect sale that we live streamed, you know, with Mickey and with Drew, I think it was during mine that it was during mine that we had the Startling Terror Tales 11 that sold, and it was like a 6.5 that sold for, I don't remember, like $32,000 or something like that. I mean, it was a huge number. Let's see. I think they're in GPA now. So let's take a look. So Startling Terror, it's the 1952 one. And so Startling, yep, here it is. 6.5 Startling Terror Tales, $33,350. This was this copy from the Bobby Blue collection, you know, Startling Terror Tales number 11 and 6.5. This sale was wild. Like, I mean, like when you look at other, I mean, just from 2022, 15,600, 2020, 5,800. I mean, when you're looking at the other grades, an 8.5 sold in 2021, peak comic boom, $19,200. This went for over 50% more than that 8.5. Now, this is the type of sale where when I see something like this, what I want to see is another sale. I want to see another sale in a comparable grade, and, you know, whether that's a 6 or a 7 or an 8 or whatever it is, and see what it actually goes for. Because, I mean, you might see this one down here, this 4.0 that sold for 10,800. You see a big spike there, but there's a reason for that one. So if we go and check out this book is the black logo variant. So now the rough estimate is that this is around 1 in 10 that had this. It came out like this. This was the first printing that came out, and it was supposed to be blue, but it was printed in black. And then we've got this one here. This is the blue. This is what you normally see. I've owned 3 copies of this book. All of mine have been blue copies. I had never seen a black copy come up for sale until this one in August. And I think there was like a restored one on eBay, but I'd never seen a universal black copy. And so that's why this book sold for so much, it was because, at least in my opinion, it was because of that black, logo variant. But then this one came along, and for a 6.5 sold for 33,000. I mean, $5,000 a point. So before I trust that sale, I will need to see another book come up for sale and do something near that, because the one I'm going to point out is Crime Suspense Stories number 22. So Crime Suspense Stories 22 had a huge sale in that Comic Connect auction as well. It had a 6.5. There we go. So you see what happened here? Had the 6.5 that went for $24,150. So huge sale for this book. I mean, just massive sale for this book. And then 1 month later, less than 1 month later, there was another 6.5 that popped up on Heritage. Now, this was still a strong sale, 15,600. I think I had this book going for around 14,000. That's around where I thought this one would go. And instead, it went for 15,600. So, went for a little more than 10% over. So a strong sale, but more in line with what you would expect. And so to me, this shows that this sale, this $24,000 sale, this did not validate that sale. It says that this sale was an outlier, in my opinion. And so I would say this book in a 6.5 is now more around a $15,000 or so book, not a $24,000 book. So I'm going to want to see the exact same thing with that. Let's see, with that Startling Terror Tales number 11. I'm going to want to see a comparable sale that justifies this or shows that, oh no, this is actually a $18,000 book or something like that. So that's what I'm going to be waiting for. The next time one, I mean, these don't sell all that often, but I mean, if we look at this, Startling Terror 11, like they sell enough that you'll probably have a sale in the next, year or 6 months or something like that. Like you have these pop up for sale in these higher grades occasionally. And so we'll see one, we'll see what it goes for. And that'll tell us, was that a I'm air quoting, like a real sale, or was it just people getting really hyped up in an auction? Some, two people competing. The next time one comes up, it goes for 10,000 or more or less. So that's what I want to see with that before I think that that's a real sale. Let's see. Is it fair to say the Action 1.5 is the highest sale of any 0.5 ever? I would, without knowing, I would still guarantee that is the case. So, I mean, it's always possible to make, maybe there was some private sale that happened for a 0.5 that we don't know about, but publicly, I would guarantee that for comic books, that is the biggest sale that has ever happened for 0.5. I mean, prove me wrong, someone else out there, but I can't imagine that a 0.5 and anything else would sell for as much as that. Tech 27 might get close. That's interesting. I would wonder what we might think a Detective Comics 27 and a 0.5 go for. So I see this comment in the chat from Ryan Bruder that says "fish into face." So I'm just wondering if you're watching like the stream a little behind, where we are right now, and you're seeing or if you're just like commenting on LB Cole, that fish in the face cover that we talked about earlier in the stream. That thing was hilarious. I would definitely be interested in trying to pick up a copy of that book at some point. But okay, so we've got Detective Comics number 27. So, I mean, at 4.5 going for 1.1 million, and then basically nothing. We've got a 6.0 going for 1.7 million. Yeah, that's not even close to what we see with Action 1. So yeah, I can't imagine another book that would sell for as much as that one in a 0.5. Let's see here. I know it's off topic, but I wanted to let you know I found a first appearance of Carnage for $30 in good condition. Okay, yeah, congratulations. I mean, I feel like that's a book that, even though it's come down in price, I feel like in almost any condition, it would probably goes for around $100. Like I don't know. Let's go. Let's check out eBay and see like what's up there. Amazing Spider-Man 361, Carnage. And I'm just going to do minus CGC. So I don't want the CGC books, just like a raw copy. 366. Man. Let's do lowest price first. And so I'm just going to do fixed price. And we've got all these true believers. So then we're going to, so if you don't know, you can use like a minus sign and then put some term in, and then it'll remove things from the results that have that. So let's see where so then we've got, we don't want second print. So we got to make sure we get rid of that too. It's always one of the, minus second. All right. So let's see what's the first one that we see? That's the Mexican edition. So this one is a 2.0 and the buy it now is still $54. So and this one is a 3.5 for 58. So I would say, $30 for a 361 in almost any condition is a great pickup. Your buddy has the 6.5 same grade in the black variant. Yeah, see, like I don't want to see the black variant, the black logo variant come up for sale, because that one will probably go pretty big. I still don't know if I'd think it would go for 33,000 though. I mean, the 4.0 went for 10,800 or so, and so I mean, a 6.5, I would think maybe 25. Like I think it would go for more. But I don't know how much I really believe like that 33 would hold up if that book came up for sale again. Oh, I forgot about Darkhawk #1. Yes, Darkhawk #1 and a 0.5 may have sold for more than Action Comics #1. I completely forgot about that book. It just slipped my mind. It's because it is so rare that you just don't ever see them come up for sale. So yeah, that one slipped my mind. Now let's see. One of the other topics I'd wanted to touch on a little bit was this. I saw this post, and it was just about kind of like manufacturer type defects. Does this hurt the value of an otherwise near mint comic? And so this person said, I'm fairly new to collecting, definitely a novice. So I've not seen this before, and the comic otherwise is definitely a nice copy. Any advice is welcomed. And so what they're showing is a comic with the staple on the back cover. And, and then they're showing that it's offset in the centerfold and the staple on the back cover here as well, and offset on the centerfold. And so the answer to that is no. It does not have an impact on the grade within reason. Now, there are some where I think it might start to, and that's where I've seen some books where they've had the staple offset like 2 inches into the book on the front cover. And so you can't actually even read the interior completely, because the staple is going through the actual like interior art of the book. So if you have an extreme example like that, I don't know if how they would grade it. They might hit you with something for that. But with something like this, where you just have it a little offset, or even over here, like a 1/2 inch in or so, which is pretty normal, it will not impact your grade. And in fact, you will often see that the really high grade copies of these books, that's what they have. They often do have that staple offset into the back cover. And the reason that they end up getting these really high grades is because when the person is flipping through the book, at least the first like half of the book, they're putting zero pressure on the spine at the staple. And so you don't get staple tears. You don't get ticks at the staple. And so that's where you often do end up getting very high grade copies, is when it has an offset staple on the back. So just something that I've generally noticed is that like a lot of times when you see really high grade copies, whether it's gold or silver or whatever, that staple is often offset there. But this isn't the only type of manufacturing defect that doesn't hurt the grade. There are others as well. Like for example, you've got you've got printer creases. And so if you're not familiar with printer creases, basically it's almost like the paper has folded over on itself and then gone through the rollers. And it's almost like you get this crease along the cover. And those, I've seen 9/8 with big printer creases on them. So you can definitely get some very high grades, 9/8 with printer creases. So you don't want to try to like pull them out or flatten those out or anything. You want to leave them as is. You can still get high grades. Now, some other, like another one that you would call a manufacturer defect, I guess, is like multiple covers. And multiple covers definitely do not impact your grade. In fact, they are actually a benefit to the book. You usually get a premium for a multiple cover, and often, not always, but often the interior cover is a higher grade. And the way CGC grades those is that they take the grade of the highest graded cover. So if you have two covers, the outside cover is a 2.0 and the inside cover is a 9.8, you get a 9.8 on that book. Now, the negative there is that book, it will get hurt a little bit on the sales numbers because the thing that's actually being seen is a lower grade cover. So that can hurt it, even though you've got a 9.8. So that's a case where it might actually sell for less than an actual 9.8. But if you had like a 9.6 and a 9.8 or a 9.4 and a 9.8, you're going to get some very high numbers for those books. Like, for example, I'm not going to remember the issue number. Let's see. I think it's like Detective 118 or 114. Maybe it's 114. Yeah, Detective Comics 114. There is a Promise Collection copy, 9.8 double cover, where I think the outside cover is a 9.6 or a 9.4. Let's see here. So yeah, it's a 9.8 outside cover. First cover here is a 9.4. Interior cover is a 9.8. So the book gets a 9.8. This is a type of book that, even though the outside cover is, a lower grade, it's still a 9.4. And so you're going to get a huge premium in this book. I mean, I think it's the only 9.8 anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Oh, there's two and a 9.8. But I would bet this one sells for more than the single 9.8 cover. But yeah. Now, one thing that you almost would call the manufacturer defect that does negatively impact the grade is Marvel chipping. And so for a long time, Marvel chipping didn't hit the grade too much. It was like they said, because it was caused by the manufacturer using these dull blades that then damaged the edge of the book, and you got these chips coming out of the cover, they wouldn't hit it as bad. But there was a recent, I don't know if it was an announcement or whatever, but I had heard that CGC was saying that they were actually going to start grading that a little bit harder, more like any other normal missing piece, because it, I don't know. I don't know why the change, maybe just because it does impact the visual appeal of the book so much. But that's something where it didn't used to hurt the grade quite as bad. It still did, but not quite as bad. And now I think it's hurting the grade a little bit more than it used to. Let's see. ASM 361s you're talking about, lots of them have those manufacturer tears at the bottom. Yeah, there's another book that, there's the X-Men First Starjammers that has a defect, a manufacturer defect, but that one actually prevents it from that's why that book is so valuable in a 9.8, because you can't get it outside. Like, it's almost impossible to get the 9.8 on the book. And I know, I think Amazing Spider-Man 300 has a really weird right edge a lot of the time, where it's like a really rough right edge, and you can get some very high grades with that one as well, because it's just like how that one was cut. So yeah, it's interesting. There are a lot of these books that, unless you know that thing was a manufacturing issue on that book, you might not be aware that isn't really going to hurt the grade very much. Let's see. All right, then the last Reddit one that I was talking about was this. I just thought I'd touch on was this one. This was never send a comic to CGC, but need to send a high value book. And so it says, good evening. It's been a long time since I got back into collecting. I have made many Silver Age raw purchases over the last year. I'm wanting to send a very high grade Fantastic Four book to CGC, but I have a few questions. If any collectors mind assisting. The book is high grade, as mentioned. I believe it's worth $5,000 to $6,000. Based on reading through the site, it looks like I have to go with the unlimited value grading, but curious how I end up paying if it's based off of percentage of market value. I'm also really nervous about mailing it. Are there any pointers in terms of what carrier? I wish CGC was at shows other than the upcoming New York City Comic-Con, as it would be the easiest. So I thought I would comment on this one a little bit. So when CGC removed the Express tier, that definitely made things a little more tricky on these submissions because you had the what is now the vintage tier, which is up to like $400 in value. Then you had the what's now called the high value tier, which is up to $1,000. Then you had something called the Express tier, which is up to $3,000, and then you had the unlimited value, which was I believe 5,000 or like above the 3,000, but it was 3% of value of the book is what you paid. It was like a minimum of $150 for grading. But then it was after that, once you exceeded 3% of value, like a $5,000 book would be $150, but a $10,000 book would be $300. Then they changed that recently to eliminate the Express tier. And then they increased the unlimited value to 4%. So books like this are kind of in that middle ground that are almost kind of tough because, you know, this person is saying that they believe it's worth $5,000 to $6,000, but what if there's color touch? What if there's trimming? You know, what if there's something that immediately cuts the value of that book down to like $2,000 and they don't realize it, but they put the book into the system with CGC at 5,000. They now paid $200 to get it graded instead of, you know, putting it into maybe the high value tier and paying like whatever it is, $80 or $85 or something like that. So where normally what I would have done is I would have put this book into the Express tier because it feels pretty reasonable. Like at a $5,000, like what you think it is, put it in the Express tier, valuing it at 3,000. If CGC grades it and they then think it's worth a lot more, they can send you the bill and charge you more. So I had that happen recently with that Crime Suspense Story 17 that I sent in. It ended up coming back in 8.0. I had gotten an email from CGC that said, we don't, you know, this book that you sent in isn't in the tier you sent it in. I had sent it in the high value tier, and they're like, so we're charging you more. And so they charged me an extra amount, and you know, that's fine, you know, like that's fine. And so what I would generally do is I would lean towards the lower end just because you don't know if you miss something. Like in that last submission I had that Adventures into Terror 43, and it came back as, you know, cover cleaned. And so I got a B1 restoration on it and I didn't notice it. I don't even know how to catch cover cleaning on one of these books. And so that's the type of thing, like I'm pretty confident in my ability to catch most restoration, but I don't know how to catch everything. And there's things that you can still miss. Like you might think, you know, you're real good at catching color touch, but it's still like if there's a small dot, maybe you miss it and they catch it. And now you paid a bunch of extra money to get the book graded and it doesn't have that value. So to me, that's why I would lean towards the lower end. You know, maybe this person should send it in the high value. Let CGC charge you more. You know, that's how I would approach it. And if they don't charge you more, fine. You know, you got it graded for a little bit less money. If they do charge you more, you know, then it just means your book has more value and then you pay more. You would have maybe expected to pay that anyway, so no big loss. Now, the other thing I just would want to comment on is that if this person is new back into collecting, for any book, I mean, let alone like an expensive book like this, you want to get that book pressed and cleaned before you get it graded. Now, me personally, I would not use CGC. I like using a third-party presser. There's multiple benefits to using a third-party presser. One, at least from my understanding, you know, and like, you know, CGC can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've generally heard that CGC typically does not do things like multiple pressing. They generally, I don't believe they do things like humidifying the book and this kind of stuff. I mean, maybe they do, but I've never heard that. And so, whereas like third-party pressers, especially, you know, the good ones, they will do a lot of those types of things, like as many presses as it takes to get it to where it needs to be, or potential humidifying, doing more dry cleaning. Like I've seen a lot of people post books that they had sent to CGC and they were very disappointed with the results, like that still had all kinds of rippling and denting to the covers and no cleaning done and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, it's the simplest thing to do. Like you can just check that box and send it into them and, it'll take a bunch of extra time and they'll do something. But I would recommend, if you're doing this, go to a third-party presser. I use the comic book presser. That's who I've been sending all my books into. But that's what I, like with this person, that's the type of recommendation I would give. I would say use a third-party presser for this type of stuff. Now, then the last thing they're talking about is shipping it. So for mailing it, I mean, you can, as long as you I've never had an issue with any of my packaging. And so as long as you use some cardboard and some bubble wrap, especially if you're just sending one book, just put it between a couple pieces of cardboard in a box and you're going to be fine. Maybe fill in that space around it in the box with some newspaper or bubble wrap or whatever, and you're going to be fine. Now, for me, I have comic insurance. Mine is dealer insurance now, but you can get private collector insurance, that kind of thing. And that covers the books that I ship. Now, it covered it when I used to just have the collector insurance. That covered it as well. The dealer insurance, the one benefit there is it covers when I ship to someone that I've sold a book to. But generally, those types of coverage, those insurance coverages will take care of you when you are still maintaining ownership of the book. So you're sending the book to a presser or you're sending the book to CGC. You are going to get the book back. You're maintaining ownership. So it's covering you on that shipment. And so that can save you a little bit of money. If you're shipping a lot of stuff, it's very worthwhile to have that type of insurance. I generally recommend to get the insurance anyway, just to protect, your investment, that kind of stuff. But if you don't have that, pay for the insurance when you ship the book. Like if you're shipping it by USPS, pay for the insurance that you get, or with priority. The $100 isn't enough. Pay the extra just to give yourself some peace of mind when you ship it. But if you have insurance, generally that will cover you in the first place. But let's see. I don't know if there was anything else he had in there. Yeah, because like he was asking about how it's paying off percentage of market value. So yeah, the other thing I look at is you want to look at it as the raw book, not the graded book. Because you don't know what the grade is going to be for sure. Like that's why you're sending it in to get graded, right? Like, so don't try and a lot of people might overestimate the grade of their own book. And so then you may be putting down a value that isn't anywhere near what the book is actually worth. And you're paying a lot more than you need to get the book graded. So just my general take on this one. So I guess I'll open this book. I mean, I wasn't sure if I was going to. I don't know if anybody, like how many people in the chat were here when I mentioned this before, but my Punch Comics number 12 is in here, and I haven't opened it yet. So I'm going to open this. I'm going to open this book now. So this I picked up this book from Comic Connect. I bid on it while we were streaming, and basically trying to host the stream while also attempting to bid and not showing everything that I was doing, because those Comic Connect auctions, like at least with Heritage, like when I'm doing a live, the Heritage auctions, like it counts down like 5 or 10 seconds and it's over. But with Comic Connect, it was it's 3 minutes. So every new bid was another 3 minutes. So yeah, lots of bubble wrap in there. And then we've got, it looks like it's inside of some cardboard as well. So yeah, this is a book that, like, I had actually started getting like a little bit down on the book for a while, because I didn't think I was ever going to be able to get a copy of it. Because this is another one of those where I needed it to be a low grade copy, because and really low grade, like even low grade copies are extremely expensive for this book. And so I needed it to be like a really low grade copy. Oh yeah, I'll put myself back on full screen. There you go. All right. So I needed it to be a really low grade copy. And yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. So yeah, I needed it to be a really low grade copy because, I mean, even 2.5s go for over $20,000. You know, like it is one of the, you know, and I don't really call it pre-code horror book, even though you might, I mean, you might be, you know, right calling it that, but it's much more of a crime book than a pre-code horror book. It's got the skull cover, and so a lot of people will, you know, will kind of like, you could kind of like default say it's a horror book, but to me, it's a lot more on the crime side. So yeah, that looks awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited about getting this book. This is definitely on my keeper list, and yeah, looks great. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to bug me a little bit that I might need to send it in to get reslabbed. I might do it. I don't know, because there's like, I'll show you when about it. But so here it is. This is Punch Comics number 12. You know, like the skull cover from the Golden Age. You know, as what I refer to this one as. And I mean, yeah, the whites on the skull look real great. You know, it's a 1.5. It's got, you know, a few little pieces missing out of the edges, but I mean, I think they look great on here. Like, I mean, they actually look good on the cover with this. And the important thing is, like, the main art is all there. You've got the skull, you've got the battle that's going on there. You've got this, like the woman down on the bottom here. I mean, it looks great. Like, it looks really good. Back cover, you know, looks fine. Like, only a little piece missing out of the bottom corner down here. And then we've got, you know, I don't remember if these Comic Connect stickers come off very easily. Yeah, these ones seem to come off pretty easily. But the one little thing that I'm noticing in here, and so which is why I may send this one in to get reslabbed, is there's like, I don't know if it'll come up on this camera, because this is really not a great camera. It's like a live stream camera, but there's like a tiny piece of plastic inside the case there. Like, of all the books, you know, like, to have that tiny bit of, like, normally I don't care about that stuff, but I'm like, it's like a $15,000 comic. It's one of the most expensive things I own, and to have that little piece of plastic in there right on the skull in the middle, I feel like I might. It's only $50 to get it, you know, plus the shipping. Like, when I send something in next, I'll probably just send it in to get that redone. But yeah, because there's just like, I don't think it'll come out on camera, but there's this like little piece of triangle of plastic, like right there, that made its way into the case. But still, I'm very happy with this book. Like I'm definitely excited on this one. I've been saying earlier, like I've been getting kind of down on it, and I was like kind of telling myself, I'm like, I don't like this book anymore. I don't want it, because I just felt like I had to say that to myself because I didn't think it was going to be possible to pick one up. And then I saw, you know, this one came up on that Comic Connect auction, a 1.5. Like, that's kind of like the max grade that I was willing to be able to go for, that I felt I could go for. And I was able to pick this one up, but I'm real happy about that. I mean, yeah, awesome. So we got two of my new keeper books here. I've got one I showed earlier, you know, the Phantom Lady 17, the 2.5, and then the Punch Comics 12, the 1.5. So these are the two newest keeper book additions to my collection. The Phantom Lady 17 was the most expensive raw book I have ever bought. I was definitely nervous when I was sending that one in, even though I trust the person I bought it from. They're, you know, very good about checking restoration. I checked it, but until you have, you know, that universal mark, you know, on when they're grading it, like, you don't know for sure. And so I was nervous until I saw that. I was very happy when I saw that on there. So very excited to add those two books as two new keeper books to my PC, or, you know, keeper list collection. I'm planning on so your comment down here time for a new keeper video. I'm planning on doing that. I was waiting for these two books actually to get in. The Phantom Lady 17 because I had sent it in for grading, and then the Punch 12 because I was waiting for it to show up. It took about a month for that Punch 12 to get here. So, but yes, I am planning on filming a new keeper list video. It is currently at 21 books because I wanted at 20, but I haven't been able to cut a book yet. I might not. I might keep it at 21 for now, but yeah, I'm torn right now on cutting one. There's a couple that I've considered that I could, but I don't really want to. So it's kind of stuck at 21 at the moment. But yeah, so there's some comments here like the keeper books are getting crazy. Yeah, so that's why my keeper list has plummeted in number so much. Like at one point, I think last year, maybe around last year, it was up around 100, or maybe even a little before last year. It was around 100, and then I cut it to 50, and then I cut it to 35, and then I cut it to, it was 20, but it's at 21 right now. And it's because as the books values have gone up, I've had to like get rid of other books to justify trying to keep them. So yeah, keeper books have been getting some, I feel like some pretty cool stuff. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm like low grade. That's all I can get. But yeah, I'm happy to have those books. Yeah, no, yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, I'm real excited about getting that Punch 12. Yeah, I did not think that one was going to happen. I mean, especially because like you see things like that Nicolas Cage copy, like a 5.5 going, or a 5.0 or 5.5 going for like 90,000, and you're just like, like they just keep getting more and more expensive. And it's one of those where I just decided it's time to bite the bullet. That was the same thing with the Phantom Lady 17. The opportunity came up on an Instagram live sale. Like I definitely was not expecting to see a Phantom Lady 17 on that Instagram live sale. And that was the situation where I had the money at that moment. And that came up, I made an offer and we made a deal on it. And it's just like, I decided like there's certain books like that you just kind of have to go for, if you want to get them, you can't wait for the perfect moment and you gotta, kind of gotta go for it. And that's what I did with that Punch 12 and the Phantom Lady 17. So super happy with that. If we all send you super chats, does that make us minority owners of the Punch 12? Not technically, but if you want to send me super chats, I don't mind. So let's see what this question was. I was wondering, what did they do to make it right? By the way, can I ask how much of a drop you got for the staple drop? Is that like near meant to a VF? So let me catch what happened here. So you're saying, so something must have happened to a book. Maybe you got pressed. So I just got a worse grade. They can hide behind their at your own risk statement that you agree to in submitting. So let me find your, let's see. Sorry, I'm jumping back up. Before I knew better, I had CGC press a Batman Adventures 12 and they popped the top staple. This is also the height of the boom, so it was like 200 days turnaround. Yeah, so that's one of the things that I've heard more enough that would make me nervous, that CGC's pressing often pops staples. Like I remember there was a video that, and I don't know how often, I don't want to say often, they do it enough that I hear people talking about it. Whereas like my presser that I've sent like 175 or something books to, I have never had a pop staple. So, I mean, like that type of stuff shouldn't happen. And so I remember like Dave with Comic Book Investments, one of his earlier videos, he was talking about, I think it was like a Reddit story or a CGC, like their CGC forum story or something, where this person had sent in a pedigree book, like this high grade pedigree book. It was like a Marvel Family or Captain Marvel or one of those runs. And they popped the staples, like they detached the cover, and so it's like, I when I sent in my one book to have the restoration removed, I did not select the option to have it pressed afterwards. I was like, nope, just remove the restoration and send it in for grading. I did not want any additional pressing on that book, especially not a Golden Age book. I just feel like they're too, potentially too fragile to risk having that type of thing happen. So yeah, that is definitely a risk. And yes, you click on a button that says, I accept any risk when you're doing that. And that can happen. I mean, with these books, like when you're doing pressing, all that, like those are risks that are there, whether it's pop staples or tears or whatever else, things can happen, but they shouldn't happen very often. That's kind of the big thing there. Let's see. So you're saying my keeper list is currently less than 50, currently 43. Yeah. And it's tough. People have asked how I went through and cut books, and it was basically just like, I effectively just like pitted like each book against one another. Like I would go down the list and I'd be like, do I like this book more or this book more? And then just kept doing that over and over and over and over again until I started cutting things out. Now, earlier on, back when my keeper list was around like 100 books, a lot of those books were like, there were some moderns in there. There were, Bronze Age, Silver Age. And that's when, like, for the keeper books, I just went with that. I could get those books back if I wanted to easily. Now, any book you can generally get back, especially if you have enough money and all that. Like if you went to like Vincent at Comic Connect and you're like, I have, $1 million, find me these books, like you'll get those books like that's, but for most people, that isn't an option, like myself included. Like I'm always trying to find a good price when the books I buy, even the keeper books. And, but I just, as I started going through it, I'm like, if I want to get back, like these Silver Age books or Bronze Age books, I know I can. Whereas, like a book like Punch 12, like I've been looking for a copy like that I could afford, that went for the price that was, I could justify for years, like for years. And so like, that's the type of thing where like I've owned multiple copies of ASM 129, because you can get those, but like Punch Comics number 12, like that's one where, yeah, I mean, if I had enough money, you could just go and buy like that 8.0 when it came up for sale or whatever, but most people, that isn't the case. And so that's why my keeper list is now 20 Golden Age books and Amazing Fantasy 15. So that is the only non-Golden Age book that is currently on my keeper list, is that 0.5 Amazing Fantasy 15. I did used to have a Bronze Age book on there. I have a 7.0 Star Wars 1 35-cent variant, and that one was on my keeper list, but I ended up cutting it. Not an easy decision to cut that one, but I did end up cutting that from the list. Let's see. So you said, I held that Nicolas Cage book in my hands, meeting with the owner of Go Collect. It was his copy. He lives in my city. Oh yeah, that's cool. The Nicolas Cage book looks really nice. I mean, it was, so for those that aren't aware, so Nicolas Cage is a big like comic book collector. Here, I'm going to share my screen again. So Nicolas Cage is a big comic book collector, and he had an Action 1, like one of the, I think the 9.0 is his. I think that was it. Like I think the 9.0 was his copy. He had it raw, and somebody else got it graded, but or he might have gotten it graded. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure the 9.0 was his. But yeah, this is the Nicolas Cage copy of 5.5. So $90,000, and you can see here, like they put this. It's not a pedigree because like he's not the original owner of these books. Like he wasn't even born in 1945, but they put this little note on here from the collection of Nicolas Cage, just like that Bobby Blue collection from the Comic Connect one that the guys from Flip Mode sold. But yeah, I mean, this is a great looking book. Like this 5.5. I mean, the skull is real white and bright. I mean, really, like not many spine ticks. Got a few little spine ticks, little crease down there. This is, you can tell this is just a scuff on the case here. Let's take a look at the back cover. Okay. Tanning is what killed this book. So you can tell like there's a quite a bit of tanning along that top edge. And I bet it's even darker on the interior. And these look like stains. So that's probably Yeah, probably a decent amount of staining up there too. But I'm guessing that there are grader's notes for this guy. Let's see here. Yeah. Light multiple stain, full top of front cover. So you can't see it on the front cover because it's black, but you could see it on the back. Moderate tanning, small tear right bottom back cover, split top of spine, stain top of spine, tear with crease top of front cover, very light crease bottom back cover. So, I mean, that is this is an example of a book that, no pun intended, like punches above its grade. Like this is a really, really good presenting 5.5. Now you can kind of see that this is probably that stain here, why that punch here is a little darker. It probably goes through there. But you wouldn't really realize that's what it is until you go to the back cover and see that stain along the edge. But yeah, that is a really good looking 5.5. The flaws it has pushes it down. That is what it is, but this is a great looking copy of this book. He offered it to you for 55. Yeah, I mean, it ended up selling for 90. So yeah, it was that was a big sale for this book. I mean, I remember it definitely got the Nicolas Cage premium, but that was still a really big sale for that book. On these high-end books that don't show up often, how do you price them for sale? So what I generally do is I look at, you look at other grades where the book has sold and you do the whole price per point type thing. And generally what you'll see is that at the very lowest grades, the price per point is higher than what it is as you climb up for the first couple of grades. And then, so it's say at a 1.0, maybe punch 12 goes for 10 grand, it's 10,000 a point. Then here at a 4.0, it was going for around 8,000 a point. But then here at a 5.5, and take the Nicolas Cage piece out of it, maybe it's 75,000 or 75,000. It's going for 14,000 a point. Then up here, it's going for, what's this? 25,000 a point. So you usually have a little bit higher per point on the low end. Then it goes down a bit per point, and then it goes up again per point. And so if you look at a few different grades, you can kind of get a feel for that. And so that's generally how I approach those books that don't sell very often. I'll also look at, say, this 2.5, you go, okay, back in 2014, this was a $4,400 book, and now it's a $24,000 book. So in 8 years, it went up 6x. So maybe this book that hasn't sold in that long has also gone up 6x. And so a 5.0 instead of 9,000 is 55,000. And just that rough estimate based on what we saw here, that's pretty close. This, outside of being the Nicolas Cage copy, maybe a 5.5 is 75,000. This one is maybe, 55 or 60,000. And so those types of estimates will get you close. And that's really, all you can do with this type of book. And you can't control two people being in an auction, bidding against one another, for that kind of thing. That really want something. You could potentially have someone that really wants it, or you could have something where the people weren't in the room, that it was just that one person that really wanted it, that had the money, and they get it for a good deal. That type of stuff happens too, especially with high grade or very expensive books where somebody's got to spend a lot of money. Yes. Yeah. The Nicolas Cage's Action 1 was stolen. It's a cool story. If you've never, there's some type of, I don't remember where I watched it. There was I don't know if I watched it on YouTube. I think maybe I watched it on YouTube. Somebody did a little mini documentary or something like that about Nicolas Cage's book, how it was stolen and recovered in the process for it. And then how I believe it ended up being the one that graded at a 9.0. I think that's how I knew that, was that I watched it in some documentary or something where they talked about that. How many grades do you think that tanning and staining took the book down? So let's see here. I mean, based on what I can see on the front cover, if I was just grading this book, taking tanning and staining out of the picture, we've got the little tear there, a little tear here, maybe a little tear here. Very few ticks, almost no creases. This almost just looks like a bindery issue. A little like 1 inch crease there, a little crease there. I mean, front cover, and then if we took the tanning and staining out of the back, I would say I would probably grade that book between a 7 and a 7.5. I mean, like, that's why this book, it looks almost just as good as that 8.0. You know, if you took out the staining and tanning, that kind of the joke is like, oh, if you took out all the flaws, is a 9.8. But no, like I think like 7.0, maybe even a 7.5. So I would say it probably took two grades down for it. 2 full grades for this tanning and staining on it is how I think that impacted the grade for this book. But yeah, it's a stunning book. I talked about this one in the prior video where I did where I went over that 8.0, because like if we here, let's because I actually said that I felt that the 5.5, you know, kind of presented better. Like if you look at, I want to get them in the same, like next to each other. So you know, go like this. So yeah, like if you flip back and forth, like you can see like 5.5 is brighter, you know, like the skull is brighter, you know, and everything than the 8.0. The 8.0 is cleaner in general. You know, you go to the back cover, it has some tanning too, but it does not have that staining. I'd say the tanning it's comparable, maybe it's probably comparable tanning. But the front is cleaner. You know, like the front doesn't have like there were a couple tears here. This just has like a little crease here. It has maybe a few less spine ticks. Doesn't have that little crease on the bottom or little corner crease. Like it presents a little bit better in terms of flaws, but color presentation, the 5.5 is I think is a little better. So yeah, that's how I look at those two. Let's see. Oh, that's what it was. I watched it on Keston's channel. that is where I watched that video. If you haven't watched Keston's channel, I recommend going over and checking out his channel, subscribing to it. Yeah, he does some really great videos. He has some good video editing and that kind of stuff too. Like me, I'm just filming on like a phone most of the time. So yeah, no, he definitely has some great videos over there. When will your Superman come back from having the conservation work done? It is with Sanderson Studios right now. I actually messaged him a couple of days ago, just kind of get a status update on it, and I think he said he'd be working on that one pretty soon. And then it would have to go to CGC, and then it would have to get graded and all of that. And I think I submitted that one as a walkthrough. I don't know. It was a little while ago. I sent that book out. Let me check. Let's see. We'll go. I gotta go to my submissions and look at my packing slips, because that one would have just been a single book packing slip. I think it's this one. Nope, that was a mechanical. Don't remember when I sent it in. Maybe it was this one. Nope, that's not it. I don't know. I just know that let's see. Oh, maybe it was this one here. Nope, that was the Captain America 5. I don't know. Checked all my ones. I feel like it should have been on there. I didn't send him more than one book. Yeah, I don't know. I think I probably sent it in. Oh, there it is. Yes, I sent it in unlimited value, Superman #2, and I don't know what it's going to come back as. Like that's one of the things. Like I have no idea what that. Yeah, so I sent it in unlimited value, but so like what I did is I wanted to use my submission to send it in. So I create the packing slip, and then I create the submission, and I send it to the presser, in this case Sanderson Studios, with with the book, and then he sends it in directly to CGC. I never want the book to come back to me before going to CGC. I want it to have as few trips through the mail as possible. I want to have it have as little time, like being unpackaged and all this kind of stuff as possible, and as little time between any type of pressing and that type of work as possible. Now, the reason I have no idea what it's going to come back as is because, like you said, I'm having that book conserved. And so he's going to remove the tape from the spine. He's going to use the leaf casting on it, which is where he actually adds paper to the book. And so that's going to reattach the two covers together. And so now instead of two separate covers, it's one single cover. It will repair tears, and that kind of thing. There's no color touch that gets added. If you add color touch, you're going to get a restored grade. But with leaf casting, you get a conserved grade. And then because it's being conserved already, there's some cleaning that he can also do to it that is allowed in the conserved grade. The Superman 2 that I have had a big stain on the front cover. So I don't know how much can be done to help lighten that, but hopefully a little bit. But with all of that done, if the cover can be reattached once it's, put back together and everything, I mean, maybe I get like a 2.0 or a 2.5, which would be pretty cool. So yeah, I haven't decided if that book is going to be on the keeper list yet or not. It is not currently, so it's not part of the 21. It probably, I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like I need to see it in person once I get it back. Because that's what happened to me with my Superman number 9. I did eventually sell it, but it was on my keeper list for like maybe a year or a little more than a year. And I had never planned on it being on there. It's just that after I bought it, I wanted it in like a heritage auction or something like that. And when it showed up and I like did the unboxing and I saw it in person, I was like, that is such an amazing cover. Like it had that impact on me where I was like, this is going to be a keeper book now. And so that happens sometimes, like where it's not a book that I planned on being a keeper book, but it just has such an impact when I see it in person. So I'll just have to see what it's like when that book ultimately comes back. What do I think when they whiten a book? Right now, I'm not a huge fan of the whitening process. Like, I don't know. I mean, like at least whitening where you're trying to still get a blue label. I'm not a huge fan of that process. And maybe that's just like maybe that'll change over time. But it's one of those things that until the grading companies say it's okay, I'm not really okay with it. And even though they don't catch it some of the time, if they do, you're getting a purple label. So, and usually the way they catch it is if like the cover is way whiter than like the interior, implies that it should be. And that's when I think they start, catching you. So I don't know. I mean, it's not I'm not really interested in going down that route. I definitely have thought about it. It's crossed my mind a couple times on some books, but it's not something I've done or am really interested in at the moment. I don't know what his wait time is like. I mean, I sent it in probably 2 months ago, maybe something like that. I think that's around when I sent it. And so, I mean, probably at least 2 to 3 months would be my guess, but I don't know for sure. You would have to ask him. It's not a book I was in a rush with. You can reach out to him on Instagram, but it's not a book I was in a rush with at all. So, so I sent it in, and when it's done, it's done. But yes, I have also, I know that there are methods to, get rid of the tanning. Now the issue is, at least from my understanding, is that you're not actually improving the book. You're just eliminating the visibility of the tanning. And so it still has the same fragility that comes with the tanning that's in the book. It's just, you can't see it now. So I don't know. It's just like, that's why I just have some, I mean, it's like if you don't know, you don't know, I guess, but, I'm not a big fan. But yeah, thanks again for joining the stream. We've been going for 3 hours now, and I did ultimately decide to open that Punch 12. It was very exciting to do that. I'm happy I was able to open that book, you know, and so yeah, it's not going to be in a, you know, an unboxing video, but got to do it here on the stream. And I will probably clip that section out and I'll put it out as its own separate video anyway. So it will be out there at some point, especially since it was right at the end of this, you know, this long stream. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining, all the comments and everything. This was a lot of fun, and yeah, I will see you in the next one.